Hello, friends. Welcome to the continuation of today's Electronic Gaming Federation Overwatch Fall Split. I am your caster, Rich Rad, here with my amazing co-caster, Jack. We've had the opportunity of casting a week prior, and now we come back again to bring you some more action. How you doing, my friend?
I am doing great. It was nice to have that little Thanksgiving break, get some turkey, get some stuff in. I'm not sure what your favorite side is, but personally, mine is mashed potatoes. And it's even better side? Collegiate Overwatch. We're back for that last week of the fall split, week 8. And while we only have 2 games on the docket here on this stream, they're going to be 2 really good matchups.
Yes, indeed. And we're really looking forward to it. We get to start off with St. John's University versus Wichita State. We've seen these teams before. Really interested to see how they're going to face off against one another. And, I've been really looking forward to seeing how these continuation in driving these collegiate compositions because honestly for the last several weeks not only in EGF but all of the collegiate scene has been really putting in so much work and showing us a variety of compositions that have allowed us to see some really new flavors into what the patch has brought to us recently.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think when we started the split, Reaper Sombra, the Winston Diva, that dive composition that's played like Brawl was very popular. Then teams started to shift away from that. They started moving towards more Chaos comps, Wrecking Ball, Sigma, Roadhog, Tracer, Echo. And I'm wondering now with the changes that have happened, if we're going to be moving towards Double Shield. We've seen a little bit of it so far in AGF. It seems like in general, these Chaos compositions are still reigning supreme, but like in any collegiate esport, meta doesn't exactly mean it is the best practice for a particular team, especially with what their hero pools are, or what they just prefer playing in general. So we could see a completely different comp. Maybe we'll see some Reinhardt Brawl come out. Those patch that just came out, that experimental patch will have a buff to Reinhardt, shortly if it goes through. So maybe teams will start practicing that a little bit earlier than later.
And again, for those that aren't tuning in, that would be curious to know and see exactly what this week 8 is comprised of. It is the halfway point, again, the fall split. This is the end of the 8th week, but we still have 16 weeks total. And again, they're fighting for that standings. Really, again, the primary effect of this is really just solidifying your seeding through this conference and standings over the course of these weeks to come, which the national finals are going to be held in March. So there's still a lot of time to really develop yourself and also to see what's at hand in the future to build on even those compositions you were mentioning.
Yeah, St. John's and Wichita State, both of them are finding themselves in maybe not the most favorable positions. St. John's, they're at 2-5 right now. Their only win that they won outright was in week 1. Their second one coming on a forfeit. So, they've got 2 wins on the season. They'd love to get to 3-5 to end it off, and that fall split on a high note, build some momentum going into the spring. Wichita State, they're at 4-3, so they have a chance to either go positive or even, which isn't bad. But I think this is a team that has been playing a little bit below expectations. If you know this program, they have done very well elsewhere in other collegiate leagues. They've been at the top of their game in many esport titles, and they have been showing promise. Then it seems like they have highest of highs and lowest of lows. They've just been very fluctuating throughout this tournament. So if they can play up to their opponent today, if they can play past that, this should be a good matchup for them. But they've also played down to opponents that were lower in standings than them previously.
And going into this matchup, we are going to have it still be a first to 3. So there could be a possible 5, even 6 maps in some cases here coming up. So we've got a lot of possible Overwatch, at least for us to start this game off. And we're going on to Nepal first for that map between these two. And, again, Control being such a very great opportunity to see what team starts to really take that brawly type of composition onto the point. Also, we've found that there is a high likelihood of most of our statistics showing that about 80% of the team that wins the first control point actually takes the control map itself. So that's why this initial round is so critical for a lot of teams, because if they can get that early advantage, it really snowballs into feeling confident to that second, potentially third round.
Absolutely. And it also comes down to the first cap. It's very hard to retake after that point has been captured by the other team. So sometimes you see teams like bring it back all the way from 99 to 0 to win the point, but it is just so difficult. So it's all down to that first fight and how that goes. You're seeing both these teams playing a little bit of Sigma, a few differences here and there in the compositions, and I'm sure with this map, it is Sanctum. Some of these players, they're going to be trying to go for those big boot plays off the side into the hole, especially the Wrecking Ball that's coming out right now from Fluffy but Deadly. They're going to be trying to roll around that point. Here they are already setting up for one of those boots.
And you can see the patient playing, looking around the corner, getting some intel as well, peeking through the doorway. A little bit of hesitation here by Johns University. Just wanted to make sure that they can get some early pick potential through these corridors, as this healing is really sustained so far on this upper position. And honestly, you know, now with those couple of members low, you've got Fluff on that high ground with the Wrecking Ball, looking to be very careful and needs to get healed back up. With this Hanzo, it's really interesting that there's just still some decent angles coming through. A lot of crowd control into the Wrecking Ball, mitigating that type of movement and knockback. Looking for the environmental kills even, but can't get value through it. This rotation coming out from Fiscal on the backside cannot get that takedown, and both have to digress back, and this crossfire coming out from the Ash could be enough here to start taking down St. John's.
See the implication mages coming out onto the point, but no one is trying to get rid of Dynamite. We're just going to find a pick, and they are able to take the point, but there are 2 picks coming out from Wichita State, so they should be able to re-engage and take this point.
Ooh, Rich getting so low. The Wrecking Ball repositioning out to the open, but the Take a Breather buying some time. This is really honestly just going to be some subtle percentage gain, since, again, St. John's had that number disadvantage in the long run. Wichita's going to take it back.
It's just going to be this Baptiste they have to kill now. And look at the ultimates that have been built up in the meantime. Wichita State, sure, they don't get that first cap, which is oh so important, but they've only given up 20%. So, if anything, it's just a bit of a trade-off. 5 ultimates, almost 6 on their side for 20%. That's a good deal. That's a bargain. This might be Cyber Thursday for them right now.
Yeah, honestly, and this rotation you're coming through, I mean, 6 ultimates when you've got potentially 4. I mean, the Transcendence is going to be the most critical thing to have for St. John's going into this trying to survive through either the Bomb or the Molten Core or even the Minefield that might be on place. But you've got everything to your advantage for Wichita, and if they can continue... Oh, the boop might just come through, does not go over the edge. That's a great pickup, though, here for St. John's, getting the takedown onto both the tank line and also the Torbjorn. Bob comes out onto point to give that extra player advantage, at least for the moment. They can get only a 6 versus 5, and Wichita's still going to come out on top with this.
They are, but that's a big investment that C is going to use there to use the Transcendence. Had to use it to counter the Roadhog Cold Fork that came out, so that isn't a Cold Hog, not Cold Fork. But that's not ability that they're going to have online. You see Mr. Coleman hasn't been able to get that Flux up just yet, but with both Foxconn and the Zenyatta using their ultimates, there's going to be no counter for it once it finally is coming up.
Well, and you can see some really great restraint from St. John's, especially with Slurpee utilizing this Transcendence for the next fight, not overcommitting it, which is a very key thing here. Just making sure that you can lead into this last fight to have an advantage to try and take this back from Wichita.
And with this last fight, the question for Wichita, what do you do here? You only have 2 ultimates on the board. Do you just take a dry fight? Do you try to win it outright? Do you use an ultimate if you get a pick? Or do you just let St. John's use up their ultimate bank and try to go for the retake? It's okay if you give up this fight. It's okay if you give up 2 fights, in fact, as long as you can retake it at the end. It looks like right now they're going to take their position away from the point and then use that Molten Core early.
And you can see just the soft placements in the specific locations to try and prevent that movement coming through from the back line of the Wrecking Ball from St. John's. Now presently on the point. St. John's manages to switch this point over, maneuvering Wichita off into that smaller corridor underneath, but it's not going to matter. The Flux is there along with the turret for the Torbjorn, just getting so much damage to instantly take it back. Wichita's going to take the advantage, pick this back up, 31% being gained as overtime dwindles away, and Wichita's going to be able to take this first round.
They are indeed. You talked about Slurpee Knight using the Transcendence, and then they were forced to use it before the Gravitic Flux came out from Wichita State. So the Transcendence is neither of them really being there when they needed to be, but it's going to be Wichita State still in the end. Just a better alt bank. We're able to build them quicker, we're able to rotate them a bit better, and that is going to be the first point going to them here on Nepal. So according to your statistics, cracking the numbers, they have an 80% chance now to take away this first map, and we are going to see that Brawl comp come out now. This is something I haven't seen in a while on Village, but it's pretty simple comp. Get to the point quickly, then use your Maywall to make sure that either no one can get onto it or you're able to just zone someone out and focus them down.
And as these doors open to see the final selection of compositions, we've got still that crowd control coming out with the flashbang from Fiscal, which is going to be necessary, but we're not going to see this very heavy mobility comp from Wichita that we saw in the prior round, and just really looking to solidify a position, maintain, and hold since they've gotten to this location first because of that assistance from the Lucio.
Yeah, it really comes down to if Zara can do any damage in the backline. If they can get a few A little bit of damage, maybe even a pick here or there as they play on the high ground. It'd be huge. Just almost fell right into the enemy team, was able to get out with that leap.
Nice evasion, being able to wall right just around the corner, surviving anything that was tossed at them. The fire strike missing, but they're still very low health values from St. John's University up top, despite Wichita having this underpass. And if you lose flex here, though, on this main, that's going to be detrimental. The wall comes out to try and block it. Healers are very highly focused on keeping him up, but Seed goes down on that back line. You've only now got the Lucio to try and sustain here for Wichita, so it relies a lot on this front line and the assistance from the May to get the wall up. Does get it up in time, but the rotation around the back with the amplification matrix coming through, cleaning up quickly.
That was a great rotation by St. John's. They know with this composition that they have, they can play split, they can take off angles. They just have to make sure that they play in pairs or trios. It's exactly what they do. Wichita State, they have to play this as a full 6. They get split up, and then you see one by one, they end up falling. Now St. John's, they take control of the play, but playing on this high ground might be a bit disadvantageous. They might just get run into, or Wichita State might just avoid them completely and take the point instead.
Yeah, the fact that you're going to bring the May down to the low ground and cause point presence, and you've got a Blizzard for a fight-winning condition, but though there is still some great rebuttal coming through by St. John's and actually finding a huge amount of value.
The problem is just what I said, they have to stick together, so putting the May on the point, that's great, but where's the rest of the team? You have to follow into that. You can use that May ult, you can use the Blizzard to clear point, or at least, you know, isolate people off of it using as a zoning ultimate, but instead there, you split yourselves up once again, and St. John's, they are going to double their point percentage at 45% now and counting.
This 50% mark, the halfway point. Deadeye comes out for one and gets a second immediately after it ends. And that will be a quick reset here, forcing Wichita back.
Quick fight there. They only commit that amplification matrix, immediately swapped onto the Moira, so no immortality field, but a chance for a higher heal percentage, but I'm not sure if that means much right now because it's not the healing that's a problem, it's the fact that they're getting split off and getting, you know, kind of one-tap by this Roadhog, by this Hanzo. There's just so much one-hit potential coming out from St. John's, and there is a bit of clutch being used.
So you do have the cryo freeze forced out early along with the sound barrier. Blizzard going to be tossed into the back. There's already a takedown onto Bazaar, so it reduces the outgoing damage. Physical being picked off in addition. That's going to be just too much taken out. St. John's not going to want to stick in this fight. They have no ability to get any damage, but they're trying to commit. Unfortunately, they lose the point, and now they have to fail.
Yeah, they lost the point very early on in that fight, way before the fight was actually over. So that's a huge win for Wichita State. Not only is that a clean sweep for them, now they're going to get even more point percentage than they probably should have if St. John's had been able to play the objective. Now it's back to the drawing board for St. John's. They do have the high noon, they do have the amplification matrix online, and they get to pick odds of Dynamite very early on. So that's going to be huge for them if they want to try to snowball this point.
Yeah, big window to take advantage of, but there's still a decent opportunity to regroup with the timing-wise just because of the positioning that Wichita has at the moment. You see the low ground, this Baptiste playing a very aggressive low ground position, going to get caught out, has to force the regroup. The immortality field coming through to give a lot of survival positioning and actually withstands the Deadeye line. You couldn't get the picks to try and take even more of St. John's out, but in the long run, despite the well-played round of that engagement by the Baptiste, it was still not enough to withstand Wichita.
The gravitons coming out from Wichita State was what won them that fight. They're just being able to zone out the entirety of St. John's. Even though they lost their main tank, they were all stuck in one place. And now you're seeing the wall coming out. It does separate the Sigma, but the rest of the team's able to break through.
Oh, 3% needs to try and touch it. Bazaar does get there in time, but there's so many snaggers pressing forward. The immortality field has already been forced out just to secure the touch and contention, with Rich getting a nice full hog though onto one, assisting with Bazaar. Now hooked up front to give some extra damage. Doesn't have to take a breather just yet, needs to be careful, but the supports are there. That great Baptiste play once again in the backside, keeping enough sustainability to keep this point in contention, allowing it to switch back to St. John's.
They weren't able to kill Rich on this Roadhog. The Baptiste was doing a great job of keeping Rich alive, and that's why they're able to win that fight. Roadhog, bit of a thick boy, but also a very healthy boy, able to survive a lot of damage, especially when you use Take a Breather and mitigate half of what's coming through. Now you're seeing the walls being created just to help them get on point.
Blizzard is the win condition right now, throwing it far enough forward, but a Flux does come through to try and counteract it. At the backside, it actually taken away from St. John's. They stepped off it just in time to allow Wichita to bring this back. Sound barrier comes out, so Ryan up front is free to swing that hammer, gaining full value of its damaging power. That's going to be round one going in favor of Wichita on control. And I gotta say, that was quite an interesting conclusion to that second round.
It was very back and forth. It went to 99-99, and I think we just saw it a few times. The point was given up too early by St. John's. They weren't even contesting it. There is because they committed the Blizzard. So St. John's, they're like, we don't want to bother with this. We're just going to back out, try to take the fight after get a few kills. Liver Flux comboing with the Hanzo Dragon Strike. Unfortunately, the Dragon Strike was off by just a little bit. It seemed to miss the mark by a few inches, and inches can be miles in this game. They weren't able to find the kills there, and then you saw the Reinhardt from Wichita State, Fluffy but Deadly, just swinging for the fences, finding all of those finishing blows, and they were able to get over the hump at the end. Wichita State taking that map 2-0.
And I mean, I like the drawback from St. John's. Like, they're being very respectful of how Wichita is playing. But the problem is I think there's a little bit too much of a digression in some cases where it's allowing Wichita to take advantage of it too much, more so than allowing St. John's to be able to stabilize and reposition for a more advantageous fight. It's that really weird balance between the two.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing there was it wasn't really them getting off the point at the end when it was 99-99. Like, sure, that stinks. You got to take that point back if you win the fight, but at the end of the day, it's not a huge deal. You just have to be more careful about playing the objective in that scenario. It was really a few fights before that when they gave it up when there was still like a 5v6. So yeah, they lost someone early on, but you can still like sold out for quite a while. You know, they're 15-20% if you just play the point, use your stall abilities, you know, just stay alive as long as possible. You got a Baptiste, you got a Roadhog, so you can stay for quite a while alive on that point. Instead, you know, they just give it up very early on and then they lose that fight. And from there, it was just they could never really regain the momentum they had originally.
Well, and hopefully they'll be able to regain some momentum as we're going to be entering onto Hollywood. So with this next map, we're going to see a lovely hybrid, and you know, one that we not have seen too much. We tend to see a lot more of King's Row and a lot of other tournaments, so it's nice to get some refreshing new visuals and allow teams to play a little bit differently than what their composition is tending to lean to on that map. But honestly, first point is the thing I really like to focus on because that's where I think there's the most variation that we've seen a lot coming through, specifically on the defensive side.
Absolutely. I think just in general, Hollywood's very unique compared to some other hybrid maps because there's so much high ground, especially the second point, but first point also. There's a lot of high ground. As you said, the defenders, they have that positional advantage to begin. They can just start off. They can split up their high ground. They can all play on one side. There's a lot of things you can do. St. John's University is starting out on the defense this time, so we're going to see how they decide to play. They are going to be playing double shield, so essentially what we could do is put, you know, the Sigma all the way up front near the choke, have maybe a Hanzo there and just kind of spam away, then back up and regroup with everyone else in the cafe, or, you know, you're going to have everyone play together. If you do play split, you just have to be really careful, but not overextending, not staying too long while you're in different positions. And it looks like for the St. John's defense, they're just going to be playing all together as a happy family.
Being as a unit is critical. He's got that early Spectral Arrow going to come out too to give some intel to maybe get a understanding of what this composition is, which is actually going to be a Tracer and a Reaper here. So there's going to be a lot of very dive and backline engagement pressure.
And it is double shield, but with the Lucio speed and with the Reinhardt shield, they're able to be moved in and out of places very quickly. You see, they're going to rotate all the way behind, try to take that high ground from the defenders, and the defenders, they know what's going to happen. They're going to have to give up that high ground and just move over to the next one.
But look at how this rotation comes through by St. John's, acknowledging that Wichita is taking their time just as much as they are. They're going to still keep the high ground, but this is a challenging position to know how long are you going to leave it open on the low ground. With Bazaar getting an early takedown on the Dynamite, that's going to be a great resolve here. And with St. John's now entering to their low ground, playing that smaller room, having the double shield with the immortality field to sustain any type of damage coming through, and honestly negating any sort of aggression from this Tracer. And Bazaar just popping off right now, cleaning up with this Hanzo to secure this point is not going to gain a tick.
That's just one headshot after another body shot. Great play from this projectile DPS player to help keep that point alive. I was a bit worried there because Liam committed that immortality field pretty early on, didn't know if they needed it, but in the end it's not going to matter. They are going to be able to win that fight. Now the swaps are coming through for Wichita. They're not going to bother with the Lucio Ryan. They're just going to play the mirror composition when it comes to tanks and supports. The biggest difference here in DPS right now is the Ashe versus the McCree. Ashe admittedly has the better ultimate with the Bob, but McCree has that flashbang, that CC that could be huge for them.
And Matrix starting off in the backside to see if they can get some extra damage on the back line. Dynamite comes through. We talked about how the crowd control is there, but the sheer force of will and damage that can come out from not only the Ashe, but specifically their name as Dynamite will completely change the tides.
Yeah, just throwing in some primary fire through the amplification matrix, throwing the dynamite, I think, through it as well. That's a lot of damage that was coming out from Wichita State. They take that first point, but now because of those swaps, they're going to be at a big ultimate disadvantage. So for St. John's, if they can stabilize, if they can set up on this high ground and rotate their alt bank wisely, they could put on a good defense here on the second point and hold out for quite a while.
You can see those elevators coming in quickly to allow St. John's to get up to that high ground position very quickly. Nice block by the sticky bombs to help reduce any sort of voltage generation coming out from that rotation onto the Echo play. And again, with this high hitbox and sky range for you to maneuver this type of character, it's going to be really vital to use for Wichita. You have the Dragon Strike coming in from the side, though, from St. John's, trying to get a decent angle with Fiscal up top, really just causing a lot of problems for Wichita with the angles St. John's is playing. The Immortality Field is forced out, but there's just too much forward momentum, and Wichita cannot withstand it.
That was a lot of ultimates committed from St. John's to win that fight. They had to use 4 out of the 6 they had. That might be too much of an investment for them to hold on for this point as much as I expected them to. They still have the amplification matrix, they still have their gravitic flux and the high noon, so there still are combinations they could use. That gravitic flux high noon, the highest of noons as some will call it, is a great combination.
You see just that patient play on top, looking for maybe getting some decent pick damage though on the Echo. And honestly, when you're going into a McCree like this, that's a very confident pick. Selecting this Echo and taking it into this open space. Dynamite now still on the side, going to give some assistance, looking to get Bazaar, does not get the kill, and will be seen in the backside getting it first. With 3 minutes still to go, there is just enough damage, and with honestly Wichita taking this high ground, that really changed all of this in favor for Wichita.
Absolutely, St. John's had great rotations on their first point defense, but here it looks like they were a bit lost. 2 players going the wrong way, and finally Fiscal going to even up the score just a little bit. Is all the way on the back, might be going for a high noon from behind, but in the meanwhile, still you see players on the side of St. John's. They are falling all around this McCree.
Yeah, and honestly, with how this Dynamite position is, with the Ashe play, just maneuvering around, getting Fiscal out of this fight, who has been a real nuisance. Bazaar is the next focus fire because they held really well initially on that point. Supercharger going to be committed by Wichita, wanting to make sure that they can push this payload to that final moment of completion for this checkpoint. And look at the cleanup inside of the brewing area. Just that bar filled with fire. 3 minutes and 30 seconds now for this payload to continue pushing to that last point.
Well, they can get a pick on the Fiscal here would be huge, but Execution going to be backing out a smart play. Don't want to chase too far. Meanwhile, these alt banks have completely split, swapped around. You saw that St. John's, they had a great advantage at the beginning at that second point. Now it seems like Wichita State, they started building up their own ultimate bank. They're going to have 3 ultimates of their own against 3 on the side of St. John's, but it's been that gravitic flux time and time again that has been an engagement for Wichita State that has helped them win fights, and that's what they have online right now.
You can see just that consistent refreshment of the shielding up front to try and block anything incoming. Fiscal does get a pick, so that's a numbers advantage here for St. John's. Kinetic Grasp mitigating a lot of that damage to fall back. The High Noon comes out. Is anybody going to be out in the open far enough? No. So the High Noon doesn't get much value, but it at least zones back Wichita. But the Flux comes through to return. Lot lifted into the high ground as a Immortality Field is beautifully timed in place to make sure that there is enough to survive with the Transcendence fueling anyone remaining. But with both of those ultimates being committed, the Duplicate coming out from the Echo will allow this Flux to get the pick onto Bazaar and start slowly moving this payload continuously forward to that final checkpoint.
The double flux, you love to see it. They saw that the Lamp and the Transcendence were committed, so they were able to use the Duplicate on the Sigma. Wasn't able to get any kills, but it has been able to give them a little bit of progress. But now, as that fluxing out for Performance gets 2, I think this is going to be St. John's fight.
Yeah, and you can honestly say that there was a great response by utilizing the Immortality Field from Seed, but it just comes out seconds too late, allowing St. John's to get the advantage, and it's going to clean this up.
It's, you know, all the changes that have happened to Baptiste Immortality Field, it's so hard to time it now. Usually, before it was just, you know, throw it out, you're fine. Now it's all about, you know, not throwing it out too early so they can destroy it on the ground, not too late so someone hits and they die. It's a very difficult mechanic to have. Now, the mechanic that Wichita State has to figure out is how do they keep this going? They do trade out. I think they might have won that trade a little bit. Liam's going to fall down, so the main heals right now for St. John's is not online.
And you can see Slurpee playing back, wanting to use cover as much as possible here, and the rest of the team has to fall in suit. They can't allow themselves to be too far forward because Slurpee's going to be vulnerable, and it's far too much for them to sustain. As you've got that Immortality field coming out with the regroup, numbers coming back quickly because of the respawn advantage that St. John's has. This rotation to the side through the side corridor, the Supercharger is actually going to be very significant, allowing this play between the left and right doorway, giving an opportunity for Wichita to take the advantage, but both of these shields still held high. Rich going down is a huge advantage, though, for Wichita to take these last few meters. Just under 60 seconds. Fiscal with the high noon, and the follow-through can't get nearly as much value, even though the respawns are here. Actually, as I say it, Bazaar comes in, but it's not going to be enough. You've got that cleanup towards the end. Oh my goodness. You know, that's honestly a will to win right now for St. John's and not allow this payload to reach the point. Oh my goodness, Jack.
Transcendence, yeah, coming out just in the nick of time, able to touch the point with the rest of the team. Believe it, Deadly's Wrecking Ball, not going to be enough to tip the scales. And I think the problem there is that Mr. Coleman just lived forever, had only a sliver of health for a good 10-15 seconds, but no one could finish off that Sigma off. They were able to get it done just a bit too late. And now this is final fight territory for Wichita State. They might get a Transcendence online in time. They might get the high noon in time before this fight really kicks off, but that's all they're going to have to work with unless this fight lasts forever.
For those curious, 0.07, it must be their lucky number today. It truly is, as you've got now at reaching the overtime. Transcendence comes out by Foxicon, and with the 2 picks coming out, that should be enough for Wichita to push through. But the fact that they're going to push this into overtime is still a very valuable conclusion for St. John's University, because if they finish with time, they have the better advantage as this will reach its end. And finally, Wichita completes this round.
Absolutely. It's unfortunate that you're not able to get a hold here on the 3rd point, but 0 time bank for the opposing team is something that's good for you. Like you said, if you can finish with time, it's going to give you a huge advantage when you go to extra rounds, but we'll see how that ends up. One thing I want to talk about right there was that support duo coming out from Wichita State, Seed and Foxicon. I talked about how the Transcendence might come online just in the nick of time. It actually came up before the Gravitic Flux, or during the Gravitic Flux cast, but instead of using it right away, they used the Baptiste Immortality field and then used the Transcendence after. So using those 2 abilities in tandem like that, it lets them both get their max usability there. So that was a great play by them. That extra healing helps sustain Wichita throughout that fight, and they were able to get it done at the very end.
And as we have the 40 seconds, we can take a look at that defensive side now from Wichita. They're going to bring out the Torbjorn here defensively, which we've seen a lot of. It causes a lot of crossfire, synergizing not only with the turret, but also with the Torbjorn. In addition to how Dynamite's been playing, this could be very deadly against St. John's. And I'm really curious to see what kind of composition is going to come out to compete against this, because Wichita, with how they've been playing, could hold this.
And the question for the defenders is, do you split this up, or do you all play on the same high ground? Before, we saw them all play farther back. In Cafe, it seems like for the most part, Wichita State, they want to play all together, but on the opposite high ground, more towards the middle of that point, more towards the choke. So they're going to be playing a bit more upfront. You saw that Torbjorn turret. It was originally placed all the way in the back on point. So not sure if that's going to be moved eventually, or if they just want to rotate towards there to get that extra damage in. But we'll see how these defenders want to play it.
Damage comes out quickly. You've got a takedown already onto 2, and that's going to be a 20-second reset here coming out the door.
Yeah, Flexecution says, I don't care about my turret. I'm just going to get the kills myself. Big headshots coming in there. Now we're already seeing the first swap from St. John's. Fiscal going to be going on to the Soldier, so has a little bit more room to work with. Faster, runs with those legs, but less shield damage right now for St. John's than they had before.
And I mean, typically you want to try and bring in the 76 because you can try and get a really unique side angle or harass the back line. But with where this positioning is from Wichita on top of this balcony and how there's only really this narrow doorway to move through, I don't know if Fiscal's going to get much value from it.
Yeah, if they were playing on the top of Cafe, I think the Soldier pick would be great, but they're not. So now you're seeing that turret will come into play, and already Rich is going to fall.
Yep, instantly, and there's not enough damage to come through by Fiscal. Helix Rocket doesn't matter anything. It cannot bring down that shield fast enough, and you will just see these numbers dwindle. And you can see already St. John's really forcing a lot of change-ups here, and the detriment to this is the ultimate economy that you're sacrificing to try and find something that works.
Yeah, we saw this before Wichita State on their attack. The swaps did help them in the end. Took them a little bit longer to get through that second point, but once they got the ball rolling, they were able to. St. John's, they're trying to find some of that same magic as well. Reaper, Doomfist, Reinhardt, Diva, Lucio. That is not something you see every day. Everything has been reset except that Baptiste, so they still have the amplification matrix, but once you even try to combo with, there's no long-range damage coming out right now from St. John's. Sure, the Fire Strike through it is good value, but that's a very hard ability to land.
Well, and the other hard part, too, is that if you do get this rush coming out by St. John's, and you have this Molten Core coming up at 25%, the second you engage this, you're literally walking into lava. And that is going to not be beneficial with this 2 minutes to go. And you can see even right now, St. John's is waiting to push in onto this. Family has to rush. Bob comes in for the extra individual, so it's a 7 versus 6 right now. The rush comes through. The Molten Core is not ready, so as long as you can see St. John's sustain through all of this return damage, they could be able to take them down, but that Flux already leads into it. The turret finds another after the VMech onto Rick, and that will be 1 minute and 30 seconds where no tick or even partial tick has been taken.
That was a great play by St. John's. It's a shame it didn't work out, and now there might be a huge stagger here onto the supports. They're able to rotate and avoid the Bob completely. They try to take the high ground. They forced out ultimates, but now there's only a minute left, so even though they were able to force out a good amount from Wichita State, they still have ultimates to work with. You have nothing. The thing you're closest to is a sound barrier at this point, which is, great for sustaining, but a Molten Core, that can just chip right through all that shield that you get, that temporary shield, so it's looking pretty dire right now for these attackers.
60 seconds with this rotation, most likely going to get one solid attempt at a potential regroup if it does end quickly, but it is such a difficult position to be in. You can see this great rotation from Wichita to change up into this different position. Supercharger forced back a little bit further than I would have liked it so that there's not as much benefit. The Molten Core also committed onto the point. This is actually an opportunity for St. John's to take this back and press the attack, but Wichita finds a flank with a Torbjörn even drawing the Reinhardt shield away, and you're being attacked from 2 fronts. It may be a dwarf, but it still does the damage necessary to cause dismay. The amplification matrix and Flux is here to get the double down the stairways. 20 seconds remain. St. John's University being obliterated in that cavern, and that's going to be 15 seconds now to potentially even reach an overtime.
Slurpee falling. She needed to stay alive. She needed to have that sound barrier to use, and now can anyone touch? The Doomfist has speed, sure, but I don't think they're going to be able to recontest this point.
Nope, charge going to come through to attempt to touch it, will fall short. And that's going to be Wichita taking this round of Hollywood, making it a 2-0 score and finding themselves on a very convincing match point.
Yeah, you saw both teams attempt swaps on their attacks. Wichita State worked out so much better. They did it a lot sooner, too. They were able to do it with about 3 minutes left, so even though that fight they won left them about 2 minutes before they capped, they were able to get it done. You saw St. John's, they swapped. It was way too late. They had good rotations. They had good ideas. They were able to get ultimates out, but that ultimate bank that was built up by Wichita State earlier on was so strong that even the ultimates that were used earlier on were just built up once again. You saw that Graphitic Flux coming out at the very end help solidify that map win for WSU.
And again, the big part of it too is like you give credit to St. John's wanting to try and change up their variation and compositions, but if you get 30-40% on your tank line for both of them, then you look to swap that 60% of an ultimate economy that you're going to lose just for the tank line alone. But we also saw the change up to the Reaper and the Doomfist. That was also lost. So there was a lot trying to, adapt in your composition, but when you have a team like Wichita playing as stellar and as coordinated as they have been, that is such a huge loss. And now as we're going to be going into this next map, before we enter into it, we'll be able to see if St. John's is able to turn this around to try and get a reverse sweep here, but we're going to a brief break, so don't go anywhere, friends, because we're curious to see if St. John's can pull a rabbit out of a hat or Wichita will end it all here. as we enter into our third maps. You're not seeing our pretty faces because these teams are rearing and ready to go, as we're going to be heading onto the map of Hanamura, and we're starting off with St. John's on the defensive side first, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our faces, they're just too pretty. You know, you gotta give the crowd something to want, so they'll see them a bit later on, but right now we're just going to go straight into this action. See the sides, they are the same. So you see St. John's again on the defense, and they are going to be sticking to that double shield composition. And they have a Torbjorn of their own. So we saw how well it worked out for Wichita State. Let's see how it works out for St. John's. But you see Wichita State, they got the Symmetra online. They're looking to teleport somewhere. I'm excited to see where that ends up. Probably to the point or right above it. This is a tried and true strat we've seen many times on Hanamura that generally works out for the attackers.
Yeah, and Wichita wants to bring it out right away, looking to try and see if they can get that early passage onto the point or even taking that upper pagoda. Going straight to the bell, though. They want to ring it and bring the action. As you can see, already almost a tick obtained. St. John's has to rotate around this one. Brought up quickly, looking for the second. St. John's has to try and aggress onto this point, or that's just going to be a free take. Looking to get some aggression forward. Physical does find Flexecution, taking down the Reaper play, but there's still a lot to be had here. The Tsar also going with that Torbjorn is yielding some value. Oh, Dynamite needs to be taken down, though. That beam is going to continue just vaporizing health values, and even though this tactic we've seen work before, and it did gain 2 ticks, St. John's manages to persevere.
It was a great play by Rich that started off this fight. The pull right after the teleport, it dispositioned Wichita State just a little bit. Yes, they get 2 ticks, almost 3 to get the point. At the end of the day, Wichita State, they just can't get it done. They can't position well enough around that bell because they're forced to kind of play it out in the open towards the front of the point. And now they are swapping to the McCree, so no more Symmetra, no more teleport strat.
With Flexecution coming in on the Hanzo as well. Lots of the Reaper. Still has a good shield shred, though, with the Storm Arrow. Keep Wichita pressing forward. Seed continuing to pump out healing enough, waiting for that Amplification Matrix to be dropped into this doorway. But Viscal's going to actually come out with that Deadeye. Nice halt as well to reposition to make sure that he can't peek the corner just in time. Does get a lot of damage, but not the execution onto that Sigma. Flux up top. There is just some great scrappiness coming out from St. John's right now on this map of Hanamura, but it's only going to last so much here. With this back and forth fight, Fiscal gonna look for the flank, does get the fan the hammer double with the roll, and actually gonna hold off Wichita here if they just need to clear these last couple of members.
Fiscal doing their best to just put the team on their back right now on this McCree. So many great plays, so many picks in that fight. The High Noon almost online once again, and St. John's, they have a few ultimates to use here. They have the Flux, they have the Supercharger, which they're using right away, and then some.
Yep, you're gonna have the Wrecking Ball come into the back trying to get some harassment, but there is a boosted amount of damage from the Supercharger, and a McCree with a fan the hammer. You are going to be removed from that fight, Hamster Boy. As it's now 1 minute and 30 seconds to go. Wichita in a very dire spot, and St. John's really turning this around.
Yeah, that Wrecking Ball was swapped to earlier on when it looked like they were going to win all 3 points in that first fight, but now only 1 minute 20 left. They're finally switching back to that Sigma. So they don't have the Gravitic Flux Hanzo Dragon Strike combination, but they do have the Orisa Halt with the Dragon Strike. A mini Graviton Surge, you could use it as there, so High Noon going to come out first, though, from Fiscal.
Just waiting, maybe gonna get a pick, doesn't get the kill. Does remove that shield coverage though from the kinetic grass that's gained and allows a follow-up here. Now 55 seconds to go. Wichita's getting a little overzealous in my book and looking to try and get some value, but that Immortality Field is there to survive through the damage, and once again, Wichita forced back.
Question is right now, for St. John's, is can Rich get back before the full engage comes back from Wichita? That Orisa has a very long walk from spawn. There's no resurrection. There's no Lucio speed to help them out. So right now, it could be a 6v5. Wichita State, they have their support ult online, and they almost have a Supercharger.
Yeah, green can go. Multicore comes out, though. Bizarre does go down by Foxicon in the back, which is going to be absolutely critical for Wichita to take this point. They only need 1. There's 3 contesting on the point with the Immortality Field just swiveled around the corner to allow that contention, but it's all or nothing now. St. John's has to stick onto this point, but it's going to be so challenging with this Supercharger coming through from Wichita, and the picks will be more than enough to take the remaining 3 off this point. St. John's has got to look now to hold point B.
Well, those are 2 ultimates that Wichita State didn't want to commit there. They had to use the Transcendence as well as the Supercharger to win out that fight. Rich King back. after the first pick was taken, but like they were able to stabilize for just a little bit, enough to kind of cause Wichita to panic. Now they have 2 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock as they approach the second point.
You can see, taking the stairway, attempting to try and remove all those from St. John's on this balcony. You've also got the Torbjorn turret. Amplification Matrix actually going to be forced out and playing this corner. Aggression comes through by St. John's after that early pick, with especially with the support line going down. And Wichita needs to try and either, at this point, they gotta fail. There's too many.
They need to hightail it out of there. The Zen and McCree gonna live through that, but just gonna be regrouping with the rest of the team. That was a great Amplification Matrix, kind of caught Wichita State off guard. Now, St. John's, they still have tons of ultimates to use here. They only use that and the Molten Core. They still have 4 on their side. If they can use 1 or 2 in this fight and win it outright cleanly, they can keep this alt bank healthy for a good while.
Oh, there was a stun and it just came through, preventing it, as you've got now a Flux up front from Wichita. What a play that comes out. You can see Fiscal, though, still playing a side angle, trying to get that damage onto that balcony position, but the double shield is preventing anything from getting bypassed. Now with 1 minute and 30 seconds, dropping down to the low ground towards that spawn entranceway, the focusing beam is going to help tremendously as long as those individuals up front are brought to 50% because of the extra bonus damage. Duplication comes out onto the Orisa. Paul's gonna just keep them into their spawn right now, attempting to draw back. Doesn't get the supercharger in time. And now you find Wichita in such a challenging position and just getting picked off 1 by 1.
They didn't play the point soon enough. They waited until it was way too late. They could have gotten a tick, maybe even 2, but instead they try to push all the way into the defender's spawn. They come away with nothing, just an empty alt bank and maybe even emptier hearts after a heartbreaking thing like that. You're seeing Flexecution now swapping onto the Hanzo, and really all that Wichita State has going for them is tank ultimates that are close but not online quite yet. St. John's, sure, they used a lot, they died a lot, but their alt bank looking pretty nice again here, and this could be final fight territory if they're able to hold.
You can see this rotation down underneath from Wichita. It is acknowledged. You're going to find a very difficult position to be in. Kinetic Grasp will look to manage some of the damage, and Molten Core is thrown out right where anyone from Wichita is going to move. I would have liked to at least see 1 tick taken by Wichita, but this hold from St. John's is really allowing them to prevent that and going to make it very challenging on this return side. The picks are still coming through. Flux is going to be forced out, wanting to end this fight here, and now no longer Wichita will be contesting this point. Overtime does trickle, but it is not going to be anything worthwhile. And honestly, you know, I gotta say, Wichita had a real struggle with this one, and I could just say that it's really map specific and how Bizarre did go onto this Torbjorn.
We talked about this at the beginning of the season series. Wichita State, they show some great promise, and then they also sometimes just kind of drop the ball. Here, they are able to get the first point, but it took them up until overtime to do it. Then got nothing on this second point. This is insanely winnable for St. John's right now. Even drawable, we could see a map for regardless of a win or a draw. And right now, Wichita State got to be kicking themselves a little bit. There were many opportunities to win that. It seems like every time they got a little bit too greedy, a little bit too ahead of themselves. And from there, St. John's, they're able to just pick apart the attackers.
Yeah, and you know, it's always an interesting thing to see what the reasoning why is. Is like, is it something where it is map related? Is it something where it's compositional? Do you feel so confident you took the 2? Like, there's so many different variables in it. But I mean, credit to St. John's for keeping a level head, managing through this. They know they've got a long adventure ahead of them for this match to try and again close the gap in their win-loss ratio for the seeding, but also to try and take this reverse sweep against a team who already has shown a very great challenge to fight against. And now as we take the swap aside, St. John's are still going to have a challenge going against this Torbjorn and the Ash play, which we saw work so well in the map prior.
Absolutely. You could still see Wichita State just full hold here on this first point and take the series outright from that. They have a Torbjorn of their own. They got the Ash. They got a lot of long-range damage. Meanwhile, St. John's, they have that Symmetra, so they're going to be trying a TP strat of their own. And seeing that the enemy team is on the high ground, they might just try to go all the way to the point.
I mean, I like the idea of doing it. Oh, but they're actually going to take a different angle. They're not going to go into the low ground. They're going to find a position just to get up top of the balcony and drop down below to try and find a flanking position, dislodging Wichita. But Wichita actually did still respond very well timed to not allow being overrun.
Yeah, you see though, they have some long spawns coming out, so if the attackers can get out and regroup, they will have a 2-man advantage, but oh, that kill onto Mr. Qualaman, that might end that push dead in its tracks. And I want to talk about Mr. Qualaman really briefly. Had an amazing play in that last fight on the second point defense, was able to cancel the Flux of the Accretion, a great Flux of their own, but right now, you're seeing St. John's, they just cannot get onto this point despite a great early TP.
And you got it placed once again. Dynamite does come through. It actually gets rid of the turret. Nobody could take advantage of it. Great, again, quickness in communication from Wichita to remove that. As St. John's looks to once again hesitate until that teleporter comes back online. Once again, mitigating the damage with the shield. Nothing too eventful at the present time until that teleporter can get back up. And here it comes, the movement through. The Zenyatta, Torbjorn, and the Ashe on that lower side position, looking to withstand any sort of onslaught. And when you've got a Flux to help, you're more than capable of stabilizing on this, even though you're going to allow one tick.
One tick is fine. You know what your win condition is, which essentially does not let them take this point at all. You wouldn't be happy with a draw, sure. I mean, it doesn't let the other team get any closer to them getting a reverse sweep, but it doesn't help you out at all. So you really just want to hold this out for as long as possible. You can give up 2 ticks. As long as you don't give up the full point, you can still win this one. And they are putting themselves in a good position to win this map. They have 4 or 5 ultimates coming online.
Oh, big Dynamite. Huge pickup as well by Flexecution on this final map, a minute and 50 seconds. It's going to be a challenge now when you've only got a 5 versus 6 and you're hoping that Bazaar can get back without being picked off once again by Wichita.
That's the problem though, like, can they get back? Because you see the rest of St. John's, they're kind of just stuck up here, so they know that most of the team is in that left room. They're just waiting for someone to come back in, and they're able to cross over without much of a contest, and they're able to break the turret. So great rotation from St. John's right now. They have some ultimates of their own now to burn.
And look, yeah, I was going to say, Wichita is sitting in a very, very good spot. The Amplification Matrix comes out. Rich is going to put out some serious damage. Does actually get 2. 3 coming through. St. John's University finds the slow, patient play that yields so much value, and Wichita being caught off guard once again. Oh, how a giant can fall.
You know what this means, Rich? It means we're going to see a 4th map in the series. We are eventually going to see Jenga. The question is, will St. John's be able to put something on the board, or will their great run on Hanamura be kind of stopped out here? We'll see how they do. They use a lot of ultimates to win that fight, I noticed. They do have time to build up an ult bank, 330 still for the attackers, but I'm sure they would have loved to keep an ult or 2 there, try to snowball here into the second point.
Well, and again, this is one of those moments where you wish you had that early tick from the previous round, where Wichita fell short, getting that 1 tick by just a small margin, and it leads to a position of where you're going to have to see the game, and you can't even win this. So now with this angle being played, C does get 1 pick onto Rich, and it's going to be a cleanup. Wichita's going to end this very fast.
Absolutely. It's just clean and proof for now. Slurpee not going to be long for this world unless somehow this is able to escape the rest of the team. But nope, there they fall. Now Wichita State, they've finally been able to win a fight outright. It seems like a lot of the fights that they won on the first point, they still lose a player or 2 in the process. So there's always a chance of a re-engage coming out from the attackers. Now they can stabilize completely. They built up some ultimates. The question is, can they hold on to this for another 2 minutes and 40 seconds? That's going to take to draw this map out.
Just consistent positioning as well, with the time of 2 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. 4 ultimates stacked up. Slurpee almost about to have the Transcendence. That's the one you really want to keep an eye on to see how it's going to be able to just, you know, hold off since that Flux comes out. High noon down below. Fiscal actually gets a great pickup from that angle, and this is the snowball that St. John's University needed. Bob gets thrown out, but there's already 3 gone. Another coming out with that attempt on the low ground. Boxicon playing the Zenyatta so closely to that Sigma to use the kinetic grasp defensively, and that's just great synergy from this tank support lineup right now to buy some time, because the respawn advantage is in favor of Wichita. Transcendence is going to be forced up by Slurpee. Would have liked to maybe seen that held on to, since this reposition and regrouping from Wichita was surpassing what the remaining members of St. John's is, and that's going to be another cleanup here, and you've lost the ultimate.
Once you lost your Sigma, that fight was guaranteed to go to the favor of Wichita State. The respawns are just so much closer, so much quicker. It just seemed impossible they would win it, so that Transcendence be committed. Completely agree with you. Should have just held on to it for a rainy day or use it to save the Sigma. The Sigma tried to contest the point. Mr. Fallman got burned down by the Zenyatta, Foxicon, and the Sigma on the opposing side. And now St. John's, they're going to have to go back to square one a bit. They committed a lot of ultimates there, and they could not get that job done. That one ticket they need to win this map.
Rich needs to be careful here. Gets overwhelmed. The multiple are going to be dropped. Looking to go for a side angle, too. So many sitting in the midst of it. Fiskal still manages to take at least that Torbjorn out of the fight. Once again, Wichita gets the picks necessary. Gonna just try and take off some of the stragglers and just run that clock. 50 seconds still to go, though, for one more attempt.
Getting closer and closer to a draw. As you said, St. John's, they have one more attempt at least. They will have some ultimates to use. They have a lot of damage increasing ultimates, the Supercharger, the Amplification Matrix. It's very hard to use Amplification Matrix, so if you're on the attack, you gotta try to just take that high ground and then use it off the top of that. That's the best way they can use it, but time and time again, they've been struggling to even get onto that high ground.
Now, as you hear the intensity of the music rise, the 30-second marker has been hit. Mostly down below. Going to wait. There's two still up top. A little bit of a separated play. You've got the Supercharger. Great Sigma shield to try and prevent it as the Flux came through. But with that Torbjorn pick coming out onto Bazaar already, and Rich taking down that Supercharger, this will for sure be a hold coming out by Wichita. We're going to see ourselves a Dranamora, my friends, as we are entering into our fourth map, still having Wichita with 2-0 lead.
I love Drassault, you know? I just love it. So many draws here. Specifically, I see them a lot. I think most on Volskaya, but Hanamura definitely one of those maps as well, as we see here. And St. John's, we saw them play really well. We've seen them play pretty well this series, even though the scoreline doesn't really indicate it. There have been so many good moments for them. It just seems like when it came down to it, that clutch factor wasn't there. And I think we see it here again. They had so many great opportunities to close out this map, but they got a little bit sloppy near the end. And for that, they will be able to force a map 4, but they will not be able to get a point on the board. The series still 2-0.
Still a long haul. You know, we said being able to do a reverse sweep, 3 maps, trying to turn it all around. Well, now you've got a 4th one to try and turn it all around. So, and I mean, again, this is at least an opportunity for St. John's to try and gain some confidence. They were able to draw this out. They're starting to compete against Wichita, maybe finding some weaknesses of how Wichita is playing and exploiting them as we're entering now into Junkertown. Again, this is an escort map. I would be really curious to see what type of long sight lines we're going to have. Wouldn't be surprised to see some Widow play. We saw a little bit of hover over by Bazaar earlier on the previous map to try and potentially contest against the Ash play. Didn't stick with it. So there's a lot going into this map of Junkertown that I'm really interested to see what type of compositions we're going to get.
Like you said, some great sightlines on this map. We've seen a lot of Hanzo this series, a lot more than I expected. So we might see some double sniper come out. Maybe we'll see the other player that isn't playing the Hanzo swap onto a Widow. Maybe they'll stick to an Ash. She's kind of that in between a sniper and more of just a mid-range character, I would say, and her ultimate is still pretty valuable. That Bob does something generally a lot in for sights. Sure, it's good to figure out where opponents are, but maybe not the most valuable ultimate in the game. So we'll see what these teams try to do. Junkertown, known as Bunkertown, we could see some more double shields. We could even see a pirate ship with a Bastion Mercy Pocket. Haven't seen it in a while, but when teams, you know, they get a little bit desperate, that's their go-to play. And St. John's, yeah, they're desperate for a win. Sure, they're able to draw out that last map, extend this series, but they're not any closer to getting this series done. Their reverse sweep, it's still possible, but they'll have to do it in 6 maps if they want to do it at all.
Yeah, and we could be in for a lot of Overwatch, as we are going to have also a side swap for those that are tuning in to know once we get into game. But, you know, you made a comment about the, you know, Bastion play and where you do the pirate ship tactic and using it more so for a combination of desperation or trying to play that role specifically to try and help yourself in moments like these. But honestly, the fact that you can have it more so to catch your opponent off guard is also just as viable. I mean, we've seen some very legitimate teams. I mean, when we've looked at some of the big names like Northwood or Marywoodville or even Harrisburg, like we've seen some unique Bastion play come out because if you know how to coordinate and keep that communication, it's a real strategic play that if you know your opponent can't dislodge it, why not use it?
I'm so glad you brought that up because I was just thinking about it as you were saying it. The surprise factor could be more important than anything else. You see sometimes that teams, they try to play really up close on defense to the attacker spawn just to try to catch the attackers off guard. So that way the Bastion can't set up. But if you're not even thinking about it, you're going to play all the way back. And that's just free real estate for the Bastion to just reign supreme, rain those like bullets from everywhere, such a high rate of fire, so much damage that's put out. And I've seen teams like Northeastern University and Tespa, they
Mhm.
will try some pretty cheeky strats with the Bastion. Haven't seen it as much on Junkertown, but for example, on King's Row, the Bastion symmetric teleport, teleport to the top of the statue, teleport to the high ground, and just rain down from above like that. It's very possible. So we don't see the symmetric Bastion as much on Junkertown, but you could do it. You could do it right on that high ground that the attackers sometimes try to take that kind of just mirrors the defender's high ground. And I mean, that's very scary if you're just facing a Bastion like that.
Well, and even just to attempt it, especially on the attacking side of where you're, because most of the time you don't tend to see the Bastion play through once you have it removed from the payload because it's so much more challenging to get back onto that payload and get a position to where you are safe enough and an environment safe enough to stabilize with a shield. So those are also the other things. So even if it came out just for a little bit to try and attempt it is also a great opportunity for the attacking side. And again, as we hop into this game of Junkertown, you will see that side swap. As I mentioned earlier, Wichita is going to be on the defense first here with St. John's on the attack. And as I said earlier before this, I was talking mostly about Bazaar potentially bringing it out, but Dynamite's going to say, all right, I got these sight lines. I might as well use them despite some of the rework that we've seen from Widow.
And also, it's a very interesting hybrid comp that's coming out from Wichita State. They have more of a chaos comp. You're going to see Flexecution and Fluffy but Deadly. They're going to be best pals in this competition, just running around together, trying to find squishies out and about, just mow them down. But then you also have some more long-range damage. You got the Sigma, the Widowmaker, and the Zenyatta. Mercy can just kind of fly around from hero to hero. So very interesting composition coming out from Wichita State. St. John's, they are not going to run that Bastion. I would like to think that you and I talked about it so much that it kind of cursed it from happening, because I am not a huge fan of Bastion gameplay, but they are going to stay onto that dumpable shield. They're going to be running that bunker comp. They're just going to be playing the point as much as possible with those shields.
And again, we'll see if there is enough sustainability with this 175 HP versus the 200 that we did see lose in the previous months, with, again, still some decent shots coming through by Fiscal to open up some spacing, especially when you take down the Wrecking Ball. You've gotten rid of the harassment, and you're solely relying on the Tracer in the back line. And this is a great push by St. John's.
Yeah, absolutely. They're able to open up this fight very early on. You're seeing now Execution in the back. Gonna have to just move out of there. And you see Fluffy but Deadly trying to follow up. And there is the first pick. So if they can continue to just roll in and out, get a pick here or there, it's going to put St. John's composition into chaos. They're not going to know what to do.
And it's a challenging position because of how far this payload is. It's not like where you're closer to the doorway, St. John's can just come out on the attack instantly. But with both Fiscal and Bazaar working so well in tandem right now, taking down these several individuals from Wichita and the assistance of the Sigma play, it should allow them to regroup with plenty of time. And there's still a big distance for Wichita to cover to get back into this.
So if they get 3 on the card, they might be able to cap the first point outright here. Does Wichita State try to re-engage this? I say no. They also say no. They're just going to give up that point. So they go for those long flanks, and they aren't able to find the value they need. Now you're seeing Dynamite swapping back off of that Widow to the Ash, something that they've had a lot of success with the Dynamite ability, as well as you mentioned earlier. So they're going to see if this gives them a better chance to hold on this defense with already a point given up by them.
See St. John's on this attack being very organized, feeling confident. Again, that morale boost coming out of that draw could be enough to really put them in a position of success, but with that minefield, it won't be success this fight. As long as you, well, I was gonna say, yeah, Wichita's gonna be able to clean that up.
Just able to roll on in and finish out that fight. In Wichita, they're going to stabilize now. Did they take the high ground now? You see the Sigma's pushed up very far. This could be a bit of an overextension if Rest of St. John's can get there, but that isn't going to be the case, at least for this round. You see, even though St. John's lost that fight, the alt bank is currently in their favor.
Very overzealous and a very confident healer to keep that Sigma alive up front. Now you've got a counter flux coming in. Pulse Bomb already taking down Fiscal with a follow-up on the Immortality field. Again, you're not going to be able to see... Oh, nice pick, though, onto the Tracer. Execution gets a little aggressive around the side. This is actually a chance to turn this, especially with a supercharge leading into this, Jag.
Yeah, they're going to commit the Hanzo Dragon as well. It's going to find Dynamite. That's huge. Oh, that is a big play. King Thor doesn't commit the Transcendence there. Didn't think it was going to hit anyone, so they're going to seep that for another day, but is it too late to save this point now?
With these few meters left to go, it's such a challenging position. Again, Wichita, as you commented, I gotta say it, it's very true. You see some very high highs and low lows right now. It's just attempting to try and stick into this fight. And, you know, St. John's is taking advantage of this escort map and not really doing anything outside of the norm, just playing very, very well and finding valuable picks.
We talked about it a little bit on Hanamura. Why were they not able to get this job done there? Why did it end up being a draw? And I don't know. It might just have been this thought that the series is over already. They were up 2-0. Why even try? Just have a little bit more fun with it. And yeah, sure, it's great. You should have fun in this game. But if you aren't trying your hardest at all times, things can happen very quickly where all of a sudden you are facing a 2-2 sudden death map. We're not there quite yet, but St. John's, they have really upped the ante, and they are going into this third point with a first pick and 4 minutes on the time.
Yeah, the fact that you're going to get that takedown is going to force out the res. You no longer have that for this engagement that can come through by St. John's on the attack from this low ground position. Dynamite still attempting to get a lot of damage forced out. Dynamite does go past the shield, but no ability to get that explosion onto multiple individuals to generate that ultimate quickly. With Bob placed onto the point, this will rotate around the bottom side with the high noon not getting any value. This is now a chance for Wichita to take advantage of this, but St. John's still finding the better end of it. The high ground is not doing anything for Wichita on this defensive side, and St. John says it's not going to matter either. We're just going to keep pressing on the low ground. If you're not going to come contest us, why should we bother even looking at you? Flux now overhead finally gets some value for Wichita, and that should be enough for that regroup.
I'm not sure what forced Slurpee there to use the Transcendence. Maybe they saw someone really weak. Maybe it was a fat finger, but they use the Transcendence, and the Sigma on the side of Wichita State says, all right, yeah, sure. I'll just use my Flux for free then. That's exactly what happens. Gravitic Flux comes out, is able to finally finish off. It was a very back and forth fight, and we might see something very similar to Hanamura. Sure, St. John's, they can do a lot at the beginning and middle stages of a map, but can they finish it off? Can they get the full cap? They have not been able to thus far on any of the points beyond the first ones.
Great Dynamite coming from Immortality Field going to be there. That's going to quickly allow some percentage gain. Dynamite is still out of the fight though. Got Mr. Koala Man rotating around the inside with that Flux, waiting for a chance to find decent value with it. The Zenyatta's left vulnerable. Kate Thor has to be careful from Wichita, separated from the team on the high ground, does find his opportunity to regroup back down below to not get overwhelmed or picked off as the Flux from Koala comes through, does get one. But you've got the Ashe back in this. Oh my goodness. Great responsiveness from Bizarre, getting rid of Ashe constantly. It's the second time we've seen some great reaction time to remove this Ashe. Could be potentially a third here with this Hanzo play up top, but is still being harassed quite heavily and finally gets redemption. Dynamite gets the pick, and that will be another hold here.
Half the time that St. John's had going into this point is now gone. Their ultimates are also gone. They only have 3 going into this fight. And you see Wichita State, they're going to have almost everything. The only thing that they really won't have is the Gravitic Flux. They've been able to stabilize here at the very end of their defense.
This position up top again. You have the ultimate economy still in favor of Wichita to prevent this payload from reaching the checkpoint. You've got really just this peaking arrow fire and spam onto the Zed in the back. Multicore comes out by Flexecution. We did see that Tracer earlier, adopting now this Corbier play, forcing back once again. But honestly, St. John's still with this minute to go. They've got at least a couple coming through. The fact that pick, a double kill coming out, could get a triple here onto the Mercy. Just misses with that final arrow as the Kinetic Grass tries to block some of the damage. That flashbang, though, perfectly placed by Fiscal to allow the damage to ensue on the Sigma. And that Supercharger is very far out front and will not get any value to try and recover here. And St. John's could just have enough to try and reach this last and final point.
The Transcendence isn't able to save the Mercy. Now they have to go to the emergency wrecking ball. They still have Dragons, they still have High Noon, they still have Flux, they still have the Supercharger. There are a lot of ultimates right now on the side for St. John's, but they need to finish with time. They only have 34 seconds left, and the defenders, they can sort this out for a very long time.
Supercharger going to get that extra boost of damage. Could look to clean at the last few, as you've also got the High Noon attempting to zone back. Doomfist does get one onto Bizarre, though, so the engagement is still an opportunity, but when you're instantly taken down soon after, it's not going to be too much value. The picks have to be super coordinated right now from St. John's. One thing that we would like to have seen increase, the focus fire is coming through. The flashbang also gets the stun. Just the last couple of meters does hit the Diva once again contest, but look at how instantly removed from this fight. No one will be able to contest any longer as we've got a flashbang onto the Doomfist. pick after pick as the kill feed continues to show up in benefit of red. This is only a matter of time until Wichita is just completely removed from this payload for its completion.
The Lucio just standing by, trying to stall as much as possible, but no more of that is going to be coming out from Wichita State. St. John's, they are able to get it done. They are able to get the full cap, but they had to burn 4 minutes on that last point to do it. Still, a finish is a finish. They're putting themselves in a great position to either win or extend this map. And you talked about Bizarre. Bizarre, oh my goodness, this Hanzo. It has just been a difference maker here for St. John's University. Fiscal, right there on Hanamura before, doing all the work, putting all the work in. Bizarre said, hey, I see you doing a great job, buddy, but we're a partnership, we're a duo. I'm going to step it up here, and we're both just going to pop off.
I mean, the synergy on the couple of those really key picks, specifically the Sigma towards the end, the flashbang just left it open for the assistance of both Bizarre and also the, Baptiste play from that St. John's side really just helped. And getting those coordinated flashbangs, managing to secure an opportunity of crowd controlling the enemy team was really critical for St. John's to try and take that fight with, as long as Wichita was able to hold that out and bring it to that zero time bank. But as we talk about the zero time bank, we also need to acknowledge that there is a Bastion on the screen with execution coming out on the Pharah. I totally am okay with the Bastion play here, but the Pharah I'm concerned about, because you're going into Fiscal, who, mind you, already played very well against an Echo.
Oh, so they're swapping off the Pharah.
Okay, I was gonna say.
I was gonna say the support line doesn't make sense. You can't run the Pharah and the Bastion because you need the Mercy Pocket to be on the Bastion, not only for healing but for that damage increase. And now here it is, pirate ship set and sail. You see already, St. John's, they're gonna have to pack up. So we talked about how this might be a bit of surprise, a bit of a desperation. Maybe it's a bit of both. But Wichita State, they've seen that advantage they had all series dwindle. They've given up a full cap, and now they're bringing up all the stuff to try to win this match.
Kinetic Crash mitigating a lot of damage. Immortality Field comes out just in time. There's RT1 taken down early. The support is gone. Solely relying on the Baptiste right now from St. John's to hold through. And great opportunity. Utilizing that bridgeway to try and block some of the damage. The sight lane was reduced for the Bastion. Could not push far enough forward to get the angle necessary to take down the DPS line in the back. A lot of health values low for St. John's, but just enough positioning to prevent that execution from coming through.
And there's the Bastion being swapped off of Vex. The Ash, they go. And Dynamite opening up with a pick. And that might be the opening they need to get this first point cap. It is going to be a 6v5.
Dynamite being in the corner here, but that wall, could be a really great Dynamite. Flux is actually going to miss here and not get any value, but Wichita's still taking advantage. All individuals from St. John's press forward, and now locked into this corner with a beautiful haul. Hynud in the back from Fiscal comes around, but it still doesn't matter. The checkpoint has been reached, and this payload's at least solidified that checkpoint.
I'm not sure if it was a misplay from St. John's or just a great play from Wichita State, but one way or another, St. John's, they were forced into that health pack room. They did not have any place to go. They were always kind of stuck into those corridors, and they couldn't push out at all. And from there, they did miss the flux, but they were able to get the damage in that they needed. That high need from Fiscal, yes, it was big, but it was just not soon enough to stop that cap. Now you're seeing Wichita State, they're getting this attack going. They're going to use a molten core very early on to try to create some more space and pave the way.
Lobbing lava for fun. As they continue to get some decent angles here, it really honestly opens up an opportunity to separate St. John's, because they're not really hitting coordinated position. They're kind of staggered all over the place. Bizarre up top trying to force out the Ash of the back. Sigma down below has to force out that beautiful health pack timing on that to keep Bizarre alive, but actually going to be able to survive and put out some more damage. If that health pack didn't come up in time, that would have been a very different engagement with Bizarre going down.
It would have been absolutely, and now, as I said, the Sigma was in the back line, but is going to be taken down, so sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. The health pack being there just in the nick of time and was able to help finish off the Orisa, the overextension a little bit. They're very fluffy but deadly, and now this attack has been stalled out a little bit. I'm not sure about using that molten core at the beginning. I think it would have been more advantageous to wait for Wichita to have St. John's push into them, and then use it in combination of a pull, get as much damage out as possible, but instead they try to open up with a fight and aren't able to get the cap there.
Now, no cap. Still 3 minutes to 20 seconds. You've got Rich taken down on this Orisa, and you will have St. John's John's have to fall back. Dynamite up top, nicely placed to try and get some extra bonus damage. St. John's, though, here, looking to get that damage onto the Mercy, picking him off so close, can't find the arrow, does get the kill eventually. And St. John's going to hold strong once again here, unless this Flux can be big. Does get a lot, and the follow-through, the chase from the Sigma is real with the Torbjorn's turret, and that Dwarf is finding value.
It was really unfortunate for Bizarre. They had to reposition themselves. They jumped right into the Immortality field, and as soon as it's gone, then you just see Wichita State, they take advantage of it. They use the Flux, and now Fluxecution gonna find 2 late kills. This is gonna give even more momentum for Wichita State to push in onto this 3rd point. St. John's, they are reeling a bit right now. Same time bank for Wichita State as St. John's had entering this 3rd point. St. John's, they had to use all of their time to get this full cap. Will Wichita State be able to do it with a better time bank?
And honestly, having control of this high ground is a early advantage. The fact that you've got the Torbjorn turret as well, getting those shots and sight lines as it rotates around the corner is also very helpful. St. John's also has to play this upper balcony through these windows, the corridor being very, very helpful with those narrow passageways, and Wichita can't really get an opportunity to get a decent amount of damage with all the mitigation and sticking away from the payload as well. The payload's not even moving at this point because Wichita's having to focus so much onto where St. John's is rotating to, who's getting the advantage, mind you, and did drop the supercharger to help boost the damage.
It was a very interesting play. They ran straight into the high ground that Wichita State was trying to hold, and they're able to just win that fight outright. They get the amplification matrix out as well during it, so pretty clean engagement for them there. You saw Bizarre just going head on first into the Ash, got the trade killing from there. It was all St. John's on that defense, and now they have the high ground that they wanted to take it before. They weren't able to take it because of those stagger kills that came out from Fluxecution. Now they have it, and now they're in a position to hold for a little bit longer. Oh, Bizarre, stop it. So many great kills.
Yep, constantly just making this fight go heavily in St. John's favor, really putting the team on their shoulders right now. You can see that great responsiveness from the healers to make sure that they are keeping Bizarre alive because of how impactful they have been. Foxicon gets a takedown with the assistance from this Dynamite Ash play onto that High Noon. And you will see St. John's, though, regardless, still retaliate back and show Wichita that they're still in this and they want to try and get a point on the board.
They commit the High Noon there, and sure, Physical does die, but it's a great play because he gets out the Immortality field from Foxicon. From there, Mr. Qualman knows that that isn't online, just uses it in that small corridor. They keep spamming into it, and just like that, another fight win for St. John's. Now, only 2 minutes for Wichita State. They have a lot of ultimates to use, but they've already used up half of their time bank.
That half of the time bank, you can see that St. John's is in a good position right now to make sure that they can keep holding. Another double kill early comes through for St. John's. A Flux comes out, but it's so late, and you've got an Immortality field and a Transcendence to secure that you are healthy and fine. Now, minute and 25 seconds, you've got a couple more attempts. Wichita's got to get everything in these next couple of fights.
It's really unfortunate that they commit both the Immortality field and the Transcendence. That Immortality field might not be back online by the time that Wichita State engages, so if they lose this fight, that might be a big reason why. Yet here they are, just playing the high ground once again. St. John's, they do not have a care in the world right now, but they should be, as Fluxecution just picked off their McCree.
Yep, and with that McCree gone, it's a lot riding on the shoulders of Bizarre, but does have the Dragon Strike dropping down to try and maneuver a few away from the payload, but there's still some separation. The Sigma has to go down here. Fluxecution actually gets another takedown on the Hanzo with themselves as Dynamite drops below. Does have to bob out for assistance. Bizarre will regroup. 40 seconds now, the supercharger comes out down below. Payload continuing to move forward. St. John's has to make a movement here. Bizarre goes down to the lower mega health pack underneath to try and get some angles onto these tank lines. Doesn't get the Storm Arrow to find value. The Immortality field comes out just in time, but it's only going to keep Bizarre alive for so long as the Amplification Matrix will also have not too many flares firing through it. Wichita's in a prime position to complete this, but again, they're also in a very detrimental place to only complete it within the overtime.
And the Accretion gets stunned, the Accretion stuns out that Prophetic Flux that was trying to come out from the other side, from Wichita State. That's a huge play there. You might see them be able to stabilize, but you see the picks, they are going the way of Wichita State regardless right now, and it looks like they will be able to get the full cap in overtime.
Yes, indeed. 5 meters worth of slowly dwindling. The kill feed lights up blue this time around. It is... well, this high noon, though, could potentially equalize. Nah, it's going to finally fall short. There it is.
Oxycon said, I hear you, Rich Rad, but no, we are going to finish off this point. I was just so stunned by that. I was flabbergasted, I was speechless, I was stuttering because it was such a great play that came out from Mr. Qualman. Time and time again, they've been able to cancel the enemy team's gravitic fluxes. There they did it once again after using a flux of their own. It just wasn't enough to put away that point for the defenders, and now they got overtime. Still anyone's ball game, equal time, because they both finished without any time on their initial pushes, so a minute on the clock. And I guess the biggest question right now is, for St. John's, will they try a bastion of their own? They saw Wichita State try it. Did not work out very well in the opposing team's favor, but they could give it a go themselves, though looking at what they have so far, I don't think it's going to happen.
I mean, this is probably, I think, the better time if you were to, because if you do the first round clean with a normal composition, the second time around, you give that anticipation that the opposing side is not going to take a risk like that. So it's always kind of a high risk, high reward. But when you're at 60 seconds, it's such a challenge. And it's those, micro calls that can really make the difference in this. And with St. John's on the attack first, we can see that we've got the double shield composition with Flexecution on the Hanzo, with Dynamite on the Ash. That crossfire is going to be there, also with a lot of shield shred from the Storm Arrow.
Absolutely, and both teams, they are going to be sticking to a Hanzo, so there's going to be a lot of shield burst potential on either side. Bizarre, they've been getting it done so far, but Execution, they've hopped off at the very end as well, so that Hanzo v Hanzo matchup could be the one to look out for as this cart makes its initial approach. You see that nothing really happening just yet, no one dying, but that's a huge accretion that comes out from Wichita State. Still 0 kills on the board for either team.
You see Bizarre finally goes down. The Dynamite damage is just too much. Couldn't get near a health pack where the healers get in line of sight fast enough. St. John's, though, does still have a decently close proximity when it comes to their respawn, so they should have an opportunity of getting back to the 6. Physical going down. Immortality field comes out a fraction of a second too late to keep that DPS alive. You need more picks to come through by Wichita. They have to stop this now before it gains any momentum, because once St. John's was able to do that, they were able to get to that third very far segment easily. Execution, you can just see that stutter step to the side, looking to try and peek the corner, finding value on the supports, or potentially even Fiscal on this McCree. The overtime commences, and now you've got St. John's unable to remove themselves from this payload for the remainder of this game.
And there's another Flux being canceled. This time it wasn't an accretion, but they were able to get the kill on the Sigma that was caught behind. This might be winnable. They take out the bomb, but that Dynamite might be the deciding factor right now for Wichita State.
Yeah, the amplification matrix that came out from Wichita should be able to secure this, but as I say that, there's still some survival and opportunities coming through with the return of the Koala Flux. This overtime is continuing. Dynamite being left to draw back, can't survive. The few that stand are going to need a regroup from Wichita, and this open space is a chance and only opportunity for Wichita right now in this first segment to take it back, and are starting to get the staggers.
The Deadly comes back, and that Execution's popping off. They use the Transcendent. It looked so good for St. John's. They had so much momentum after getting pick after pick, but they're just not able to move the cart far enough. That first point attempt is going to be stopped right there. Overtime push, not able to get a tick. And that is Wichita State's win condition. They've got to get it close to the end of the first point to take this series.
The goal post is set. That box of victory in sight. Wichita looking to close this out and not allow any more maps to proceed. But St. John's here, I mean, I would still say that this is still a decent distance when you're looking at 60 seconds and how well that underpass was being held by Wichita. So honestly, I thought it was going to end sooner than where it was, but there is still some great just gameplay coming out from this tank line, specifically from Mr. Koala Man.
Yeah, Mr. Koala Man has been on fire this entire series as the Sigma so many times has canceled ultimates with the accretion. I agree. It looks like that card was going to be stopped way sooner, near the end of the first bend, but instead it gets all the way near where the capture point is. So that's still a good amount. And there's only a minute for Wichita State. So you take a fight or two early on, that might be the series right there, or at least this map. I would just say you gotta play aggressive. You gotta play upfront. If you play right on the cart, it stops it from moving at all. Then you could take 2, maybe even 3 more fights if you regroup quick enough. But instead, St. John's, they're just gonna play that high ground. It is a safer bet to try to hold there, but sometimes you just gotta risk it for the biscuit. And in this series, the biscuit is this series continuing.
I mean, you also have Slurpee adapting onto this Ana play versus the Zenyatta, which we saw earlier. So I'm curious of how well that's going to fend off here. Wichita, you still have Dynamite just pumping in damage from that high ground position, trying to dwindle the shields or anyone close. Duck, oh, comes through. Shield is dropped. Attempting to generate some early percentage. There comes the Storm Arrow. Looks for potential follow-up. The turret is out of the mix. Bizarre needs to try and reposition to get some decent crossfire if a turret can be placed again, but that golden box is fastly approaching. Beautiful Bionate, but is there enough to follow through? The Immortality Field comes out to keep it alive, as you will have Wichita in the end of it all manage to quickly take this completion on Junkertown. Spin to win as the Wrecking Ball hopes and dreams to buy time, but there is not enough currency in the world to buy that back.
Those first 2 maps looked very clean for Wichita State. Last 2 maps did not go the way they wanted to, but in the end, they still are able to get that 3-0 victory. And just like I said, St. John's had to play more aggressive there. They played way too passive. They gave up way too much space. Those Dynamites from Dynamite have been killer all series. A little bit of touch damage here, a little bit of chip damage there, and the follow-up from the rest of the team was enough to get Rich out of the fight. And once you lose one of your tanks, especially the Orisa, in a double shield composition, it's very hard to get back into that fight, regain any advantage that you lost from it, and weren't able to get any ground on that second defense.
Absolutely. And, we'll be able to actually get a few words from Wichita here. Again, being the winners 3-0, despite how well St. John's was able to fight and combat against them. And I definitely think we're all going to want to stick around to see exactly how the mindset goes, to see what really changed and finally, in the end of it, allowed them to claim this victory. So don't go anywhere, friends, because we'll be back with Flexecution coming out from Wichita State in just a moment. Back, friends. As we said, we were on a brief break to get Flexecution into the channel here so we can get some great words from them before we enter into our next game. So, Flexecution, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm feeling pretty good now. We're coming off a couple rough games, so it feels nice to come back and win one.
There you go. And that's definitely always a great way to feel when you've got some momentum back into this. Again, there's still a lot to be had going into the future matches, but it's nice to see in this 8th week you got that W. And we got to start off with the question of your feeling of the current meta, because we had a quick discussion just before entering into this live broadcast right now that your feelings for Double Shield are quite a fiery one, I would say.
Yeah, it's not our favorite meta, I will say. You know, it's not fun whenever the comms for 85% of the time are shooting shield, shooting shield, shooting shield, shield broken, shield down, my shield's broken. It's just it's I find it to be a boring poke meta, and you know, being a Tracer, Genji, Doomfist, Echo player, like I don't
Mhm.
like slow poke metas. So it's not my favorite, but hopefully the devs figure it out and get it fixed pretty soon.
Well, I was gonna say because we saw a little bit of like the tracer play. We also saw some variation as well from you in that lineup, as you just said, for your character pool. Do you feel that at this point you would, because there was a little bit of the tracer play. What do you do to try and dynamically adjust to still face off against this double shield? Or at this point, do you not tend to risk it, especially against teams that really start to, you know, push the attack and put you into an uncomfortable position?
So it's very dependent upon what version of double shield everybody runs. If you're running a Zen, that's very easy for me to try to pressure.
Mhm.
If an Orisa is trying to pull me a lot, then I tend to play super safe, and I just try to get cooldowns out. Maybe pressure out the BAP, try to get his Immort. Pressure out if they have an Ashe, get her Coach Gun out or whatever. Just try to bait out those cooldowns. I never really try to actually get picks. But if they're really focused on the front line still, I will try to go in, get a quick one clip on somebody that's not very mobile, or even sometimes bait trance and things like that.
Burn the CDs and say GG's.
Yeah, that's about right.
All right, so I gotta ask because those first two maps that you guys had went really well. You won Lijiang 2-0, you got a full hold on Hollywood, and then it seems like going into Hanamura as well as Junkertown, the momentum had kind of stopped a little bit. You did end up winning Junkertown, you drew Hanamura, so no losses. But do you think that when you guys kind of swap things up, that you lost a bit of momentum or you lost a bit of your edge, thinking the series is over already?
So I think one of our biggest issues is our scrims just happen to go that we practice Temple of Anubis pretty much every single scrim because the other team is picking it. So we haven't gotten to practice Hanamura much, and the one time we did, we practiced a comp that we no longer run. So we're pretty rusty on Hanamura. We've started rotating it back into our scrims starting right now. So hopefully it gets a lot better. 2CP has traditionally been our weakest map type, so I'm not surprised that of all of them, that's the one we struggled on the most. And then unfortunately, Seed has a very important exam. As you guys already know, very amazing support. We a lot of our wins are heavily shouldered by him, and he had to leave because he had to go take that exam. But King Thor came in, did a fantastic job, and we're really happy to have him there as Seed's backup.
Absolutely. King Thor coming in. Didn't miss a beat, didn't miss a step. The team still performed pretty well. It was a close Junkertown, but you guys were able to have a very dominant second attack. So with this win, you finish at 5-3 on the season. Pretty good record, puts you closer to the top of the table. My question is, what is the limit of this team? There are, some teams that are entering this week that are undefeated, some of them that have beaten you that have slightly better records. Do you think that coming out of the fall split into the spring split, you guys are going to be learning from this and be able to compete with them later on?
Absolutely. We have a fire lit under us right now. We've had a lot of, for better or lack of better term, come to Jesus meetings for the lack of passion that we've kind of felt. We've been struggling lately against UT Arlington, RAT, and especially UConn. We just weren't there. We felt like our hearts weren't in it, and we've talked a lot, and we've started investing a lot more. Everybody's grinding now. We're scrimming more often, and everyone's very fired up. We're going to see a lot of improvement, and I wouldn't count us out against any team in the future.
Yeah, that was a great win by UConn last week at your expense, unfortunately, but you still are able to bring it back this week and end this split on a high note. And that's all I got for you, Flexecution. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
Yeah.
having me. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. And again, for those that are tuning in, we still have some more Overwatch. We had the lovely interview coming out from Plexecution, who's looking to be able to carry this momentum and this fire into their future matches as we continue for the second segment of the spring split. But that's going to be it for at least me for the time being. But Jag's still going to be here for the rest of the night. So we've got another match coming up. So don't go anywhere, friends, because we still have a lot more Overwatch to show you.
no point to avoid it, to control it. Bad or good, I'm right there. You got to know it. If this is a mistake, then so be it. If this is a mistake, then so be it. If this is a mistake, then so be it. If this is a mistake, if this is a mistake. I don't mind making them you. I don't mind making them you. I don't mind making them you. I don't mind making them be.
Hello and welcome, Overwatch fans. We are here live now with the University of Texas, that's Arlington, taking on the University of Colorado. I'm FBI Tugboat. Jag has been with you guys for a while now, I believe. Lucky you guys. Got some more Overwatch action coming at you.
Absolutely. And this is going to be a very interesting game. As you said, UT Arlington, they are playing in this series and they have been dominant so far in the fall split. One of the 3 undefeated teams left standing. Maris, they had a bye this week, so they're undefeated for the season, or at least for the split. RIT, unfortunately for them, they had to move their game due to a few tests in there. So they're playing on Saturday, so they can go undefeated then. But UTA, they can be the first team to become 8-0 on the season right here, right now. They do bleed though. They are human. We saw them drop their first map last week, so maybe Colorado can take a few maps here and there and be very competitive. But UTA, they've just been on fire so far. Colorado, they've been a mid-tier table team. You know, they've beaten teams around their record, have fallen to teams like RIT that are at the top of the table. So we've seen a little bit of back and forth with them. But I do have some insider information, actually, FBI Tugboat. They are bringing in a new player named Cloud, a hit scan player. His GM, very good. I actually played with him in GGNA. So we'll see if that turns the tide with a new player.
You played
coming
with
in.
him? Like
I
on the
did,
same
yeah.
team? Oh, okay, interesting stuff. We'll see how that fares
Not going to
here
be
for
biased,
the
though.
4-3. Oh no, I hear you.
Not
For
at
the
all.
4-3 University of Colorado squad coming in against the so far undefeated 7-0 University of Texas Arlington. That's UTA, henceforth referred to because that's just a lot easier. Now we got Nepal up here first, correct?
We do indeed, and we don't know exactly what point it's going to be yet, but I hope we see more of Sanctum because I just love the boot potential. I love when people go off the side, but it looks like it's not going to be that off the bat. I believe it's going to be Sanctuary, so we could see some Symmetra teleporter action coming out, try to put those turrets up on the walls and stop the enemy team from coming in, but so far we're not going to see that at all. We're going to see UT Arlington on the tried and true formula that they love to run is Tomato Lord on this Wrecking Ball. It's just been something they've been running all season, and so far no one has been able to stop them.
Yeah, a super I mean, an awesome name paired with an interesting choice. We had Tracers on both sides. Now Isaiah going Tracer Cloud. Like you said, that hit scan staying on the McCree. Everybody hauling out at this one. Tomato Lord rolling out, as the name would suggest. Everybody on point. That's how it starts. Over towards big health pack is most of the rest of UT Arlington. This is just Tomato Lord getting a lot of flack in the back as Ultra actually falling relatively early here, and Tomato Lord barely gets out of dodge. Does get big health back on the way, but it's going to be, yeah, I was going to say, it's going to be a monumental effort trying to get back. As so far, University of Colorado has really dominated this early game.
Yeah, they have crowd control. They have that flashbang on their side, so they can try to catch Tomato Lord out, maybe Ultra Polito as well. So they have a little bit of a counter to this Chaos comp. That is going to be Colorado taking the first point cap, and if they can keep this up, if they can keep playing as a 6-person squad, just run it down into the squishies of UT Arlington, they might be able to put up a fight here, but Cloud almost going off the side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, oh, and there it is. I believe I'm not sure if he'll be able to get that momentum back up. It's gonna be a tall order for him regardless. Now Dez here, that's who we're looking on. A lot of damage, focusing beam and more, but a well-placed Zarya bubble saves him for the time being. Little high noon action does take out Dez there. A hard to hit Echo was a good selection for that. And Darko once again falls out there towards the very end. Brick can be hard to kill, but it just kind of looks like University of Colorado is making that like a preference. Take out this Brick towards the end.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter when they take her out if they're able to get the full team wipe there like they just did. Seems like they're just able to get a lot of good antis in here. As you've seen twice in a row, this Ana is able to ante up the entirety of the squad of UT Arlington besides their Wrecking Ball, just running around in the backline. Tomato Lord has to swap on actually to the Reinhardt, so this is something we haven't seen very much this season, but you know when they're swapping to this, they want to take that one-on-one fight with the Shatter coming out from Funkmaster.
I think that hit one or two, but just through the thick of things, and every ultimate in the board pretty much coming out. Dez is the only one still with that, and here it comes to replicate. They have falling Funkmaster as well. Big tank, big source of damage. Now Dez instantly shoved out of his assumed form. Zarya's going to be the target, and Ruby's not going to be able to get back on here. UT Arlington looks like they're going to be able to take this after the Ultra Polito switch onto Hanzo, what, 2 lives ago?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a live or 2 ago, already 66% to that Dragon Strike, so building up that ultimate pretty quickly. It's really unfortunate for University of Colorado. They had a win condition there, they had a great grab, they had a great shatter, but they just weren't able to get the kill onto Tomato Lord, who's swapped onto this Reinhardt and already establishing dominance. That shatter online, and that pick there from Ultra Polito is going to stagger Colorado for just a little bit longer. It might be time to swap off of this Tracer.
Yeah, well, Isaiah finding trouble on the Tracer. I think UT Arlington had a Tracer player finding a little bit of trouble in Ultra Polito. Maybe just not the move forward here on this Napalm map. Antis and more coming out. We're on board with Tomato Lord just swinging away and getting it done. Sometimes you just have to press W and swing away. Love to see it. Tomato Lord trying to get back on this one. Does a little bit low as well, but UT Arlington has stabilized.
And that's a great fight for UT Arlington. Sure, they only get 1 pick. Sure, they use an ultimate, but 1 nano, that builds up so quickly. So the nano boost will be online very quickly once again for Super Juice. And 2, they keep everything else they have in the bank. They've already given up 91% of this point, so if they lose 1 point, odds are they're going to lose it. So far, they're just rotating their ultimates.
Here comes the speed boosted Cloud. There you go. The high noon taking down not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Throwing Anna on the mix, and that's going to make for a nice meal. 91%, and like you said, I am not sure if UT Arlington without change is going to be able to get there to contest this.
Dez is going to try on this Echo just flying by, but not sure if they can get there. This is going to be the Lucio touching, and no, they aren't able to get it done, so Colorado winning this first round. Big upset starting off the series. Obviously, it's just 1 point, so there's still plenty of time for UTA to get back in to this map and the series as a whole. But as Richard was telling me last game, you get an 80% chance to win this map if you win this first point, and that's exactly what Colorado did.
Look at that timing. Cloud coming through there, just literally waiting for all the bubbles, all the shields to fall. Without Bird Boy's speed boost, I'm not sure if that one would have happened. As you said, 80% chance to win this second map. See how it goes. This one's handedly different from the first.
Absolutely.
Just, physically, geographically, or whatever.
Yeah, Village, you got to play a little bit differently. You usually want to be playing on the high ground as opposed to the point after you cap it, especially because there are no maze coming out from either side. You see Tomato committing to this Reinhardt, so no Wrecking Ball now. This is a big change for usually how UTA plays. Can they adjust to it?
Yeah, I mean, what? Tomato Lord goes on the ball last time. Might have been able to get there in time. Who knows? That theory crafting at its worst. Ultra Polito getting a lot of... Wow, that is the shatter already? Funkmaster doing everything in a bag of chips for his squad. Point literally just opened up, what, 2 seconds ago?
Yeah, and that's going to be the first cap going their way. And again, not being biased here at all. I do know Cloud personally,
no
but
bias,
they have
no bias.
really opened up this series. The flashbang killed there onto Tomato Lore just let Funkmaster go in with that shatter. That was a full team shatter, the full team like coming out. And it's again, first point cap or second point cap going the way of University of Colorado.
Funkmaster getting a little bit low on this. Teammate is there for him. Illicit, really the big source of healing on this. Ruby getting hyper aggressive, but paying off for it in spades. Just like that, UT Arlington falls almost entirely. They have an off tank and a main support still alive. University of Colorado uses this as an opportunity to build ults like crazy. There's one player who is not higher than 75.
And that is the Ana who just committed to the Nano, and already you're seeing Funkmaster gonna eclipse Tomato Lord in charge for that shatter, already almost up to another one. You're seeing right now the Tracer just looking in the back end, gonna be looking for that pulse bomb, not gonna find it, it's gonna fall, but is gonna find actually a kill onto Ultra Polito.
Oh, they're not gonna be taken by this one again. Yes. That is going to be a wasted high noon, but still following it up in the end. That's going to be enough. Cloud getting mega low here. Ruby not going to live through this offensive push 2 times in a row. Been getting it done so far. Not going to happen again. Dez trying to get out of dodge. Not going to happen on that as Cloud continues to take just absolutely foundational support from this Bird Boys Lucio speed boost.
Yeah, I'm gonna fall at the end of that, and the biggest thing there for Colorado is they immediately gave up the point before the fight was over. We saw this in the last series. St. John's just were not able to play the objective there. UT Arlington before winning the fight, they take it, and now they're already at 33%, which could be a big difference maker down the line on this point. Now you see the Gravitons are coming out first from UT Arlington.
No kills quite yet. Nice. Integrate in the middle of it, but just like that, both tanks fall for the side of University of Colorado. Going to be very difficult to get this team fight secured without those sources of support damage. 50% or so as UT Arlington now eclipses University of Colorado for the first time in this Nepal matchup. And just a little bit of cleanup action now for UT Arlington. There's a mega charge Zarya. Those are things our nightmares are made out of.
Absolutely. Hey, Zarya full charge is one of the scariest characters in the game. Imagine it's just like Reaper damage coming at you with so much more health and a way to protect teammates.
It just doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop.
Yeah, and you see that Tomato Lord was looking for a flank shatter, but the rotation just not going to be there, so you're going to have to try to contest closer to the point. The Nano being committed now from User Colorado onto Cloud. They're going to go for the Nano High Noon, but it's not going to find any kills.
Yeah, what they found a quad on the first map of Nepal, not going to happen so easily. Super Juice almost getting called out there. Shatter landing and hitting no one, it looks like. Actually, Ruby looks like he's been spending his life on 50%. Once these team fights are similarly about, what, 50% over or so. Previously, he was able to live through it. Now it's going to be a different story.
This is coming down to the wire. It's just a 2 DPS against 3. It's going to be the Cloud trying their best. The Wrecking Ball isn't going to be able to touch in the nick of time, but can Ruby stay alive long enough for the rest of the team to come back?
Yeah, now just a little bit of stall action. This is going to be the best that Colorado can do for right now, and I do believe that those mines might be the end of the dream here. Dez taking those out after the, getting credited for the mine kills because he's copying the, replicating the ball. That's overtime. That's 1-1. That's tied up. And that's UT Arlington beating University of Colorado 100-49, which I have to say, Jag, is not as good as University of Colorado took it to UTA in game number 1, or map number 1.
Yeah, absolutely, but now it is 1-1 on this map, so anyone can win the second point and take home that first point in the series. Seems like UT Arlington, they figured out a bit of a strategy to help them win out, and they're going to go once again back to the Wrecking Ball. This is a much better point for it. the boot potential off the side into the hole is pretty great here. And then you see Create's going to be on the Roadhog, so another great opportunity there with Super J. So 3 heroes that can knock people off of the side. Interestingly enough, though, you're going to see Dez swap to the McCree. Now going to go back to the Echo. So Cloud not going to be on the McCree this time, going to be on the Ass. There is going to be a counter for that Echo in the sky. And one thing I wanted to say I really didn't like, I did not like that Nano High Noon. Cloud has been doing a great job, but it's just not a good call. I think you got to do it on like the Reinhardt or something.
I was wondering because it kind of seems unnecessary, right? It's like the difference of a quarter second in High Noon lock for damage wise, right? Like almost a guaranteed kill no matter what, but no matter. A little bit of trade action as both teams lose a tank, but Dez actually losing to a well-placed hit scan shot from this Cloud player. This is the guy we've been watching so far, and there's a lot of reason for it, Jag. Looking back towards point is healers just really crowding this by themselves with Ultra Polito down and Tomato Lord just offering a... Oh! Wait.
Was able to use the coach gun there to stay alive, and it isn't going to be the first...
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just barely able to stay alive, but able to do it nonetheless. But it's going to be Funkmaster this time who can't stay alive. So first point cap going the way of Colorado, but now they are down one of their tanks as the rest of UT Arlington is regrouping for an engage. The
reason I was freaking out is I thought that was Illicit's Baptiste, but there's no ground to jump off of, so I was just mega confused for a second. 19-20% here, Illicit, Azia both down. Create's doing what he can. Nice. Oh, man. So what, he rips left to try and pull him off, but Sigma's just, he's a tall character. He's a tall boy. He's a tall boy. Ended up hitting his feet against the ground there and kind of dragging him as opposed to actually pulling him to the left.
He is an extra tall lad for sure, and once again, Colorado getting out of the point before the fight is over. This time they have a lot less point percentage on the board for them. And oh, you're gonna see the Tracer almost fall once again for Colorado.
Why can't that happen to me when I'm playing Tracer?
Just freaking, yeah, right? Like it's just like you get insta hooked and you're like, oh man, just like I was right at the corner. How did that go through? How did I get pulled through the wall?
Disappear like Azia.
Good thing for Colorado is they do have a lot of ultimates. They're going to have everything in their bank except for Ruby's Flux online going for this. So if they're able to use them in the right order and able to get picks right off the bat like that, they might be able to win this.
Nice Bob placement. That's going to be positioned kind of bisecting point here. Not 100% sure what the Lucio was doing there. Obviously being there for boot capabilities, but when you have an Ash down bottom, those capabilities are going to be negated. 51-52%. University of Colorado is not getting shut out of this by any means, but so far this game has really been marked by a whole lot of trades like we just literally saw. Super Juice getting back in the thick of things, and the same exact result. Cloud finding that head that'll crumb to the dome, puts him down and back to spawn. 66-67% now. This is still going for Arlington, but this is just some stall action. They're just trying to get a little bit closer to that 90-something.
But this is the difference between a great team and a good team. University of Colorado, they've had some good plays so far, but you saw that UT Arlington, even though they lost people very early on, they did not lose the point for a very long time. So they're only about a fight and a half away from capping this point in this first map. Colorado, they've had a long hill to climb now because they used a lot of ultimates there and weren't able to finish off the fight early.
So a little Roadhog ultimate, little whole hog action into putting the ball up in a corner, and that's going to work. UT Arlington getting mega aggressive here as Cloud follows as well. Tomato taking one early there. Azia managed to get out of dodge again. We've been watching Cloud, but maybe Azia is the perspective to really be marveled at. Just hit again, there you go. Just straight up gets out on that of dodge. Gets past a Tracer, gets past a Soldier, gets past, what a brig there. And finally at the end there, the shotgun blast, the pellets from Creates does take out Azia on the Tracer.
And now that win condition is in sight for UT Arlington. They're smelling blood in the water. They have a rally. They have the minefield online. But Dez, gonna be taken out of that fight. That is a huge pick for Boulder. Now they might be able to get back into this.
Yeah, so there was something solid on board. Dez isn't necessarily near his ultimate, but simple fact, that damage, there's a pull. Funkmaster should be, oh no, he just used his grappling hook, wasn't able to. A huge pull, about as most damage that Creates could get at one point with that hook. Now, Azia still doing the part over here, pull across the middle, and Ruby is actually gonna get killed early. No need to drop him down on this one. Super Juice back on the wall, has that barrier, and there it's gonna go, but not gonna be in time to keep Creates and Tomato Lord alive, unfortunately. Cloud fighting Super Juice again. He has just had his number today.
If there's a cloud in the sky, there is the way. I played with this guy. He is just nutty, so be sure to be keeping attention to that Ashe and seeing what they can do. And the good thing for Colorado is they won that fight only using 2 ultimates. I was worried they were going to overcommit, maybe use the mines as a panic, but instead they have the whole hog, they have the mines, they have the pulse bomb still online. This is last fight, no matter what. Something's got to give. One of these teams has to pull it out at the last second. And they're going to get Ultra Polito. That's a huge start right now for Boulder.
Might be off the back of just simply using two soft supports. There's no huge sources of healing. Both of these healers, I think they started this at like 10 and 6% or something like this. So University of Colorado going to be taking game 1. UTA again proving that they can bleed after their map loss last week, and now another one following it up here.
Yes, they can bleed, but can they fall? Colorado, they're looking for a huge upset here. Again, this is a team, UTA, that's entering 7-0. This is only their second map loss in 8 games. But if they can keep this rolling, if Colorado can keep this pressure up, they might be able to take this map. You saw that they kind of made UTA uncomfortable. They forced them onto the Rhine composition, which we don't see a lot of from Tomato Lord, a very capable main tank in his own right, but just something that hasn't been shown as much. So I'm sure that UTA, they want to play their game, but now they're being forced out of that. They're being forced into a comp that's more of a mirror, and it's gone a little bit back and forth. They were able to take that second point of Nepal, but that first one, as you said, that was just all Colorado all the time. The last 2 points went back and forth, but at the end of the day, Colorado still comes up on top.
Yeah, I mean, UTA, very established Overwatch team here in the collegiate North American region. I would have to be surprised in the day if they didn't play any Overwatch opening up to this, but that would also explain why that game 1 kind of went the way that it was. It seems like game 2, game 3, more indicative of what we may be seeing here tonight. A lot of that back and forth instead of just a one-sided stomp. And I think that the statement made here from the University of Colorado is simply as they will not go so quietly into the night. 4-3 they may be, but they're not dropping this 8th game to go down to 4-4 and not have that positive win-loss record. They want to be in this one 5-3, and I mean, putting down UTA, who hasn't dropped a total round or a total matchup so far, put them down to 7-1 would be the way to do it.
Absolutely. We just saw that Wichita State, they were able to get to 5-3, puts you in a very good position entering the spring split. You're going to be like near the, I would say, upper mid tier of the table, but build off that momentum. I mean, think about how much confidence you would build off of this win. Beating a previously undefeated team, that is huge going into the spring. And, trying out this new roster for the first time here in EGF, even if it's only one new component, that could really set it up for the future, what you want to do, how you want to play. And so far, they've at least put themselves 2 maps away from winning. So they are a lot closer than UTA is right now.
It's best of 5, yes, sir. This is overall University of Colorado map that has been looking good, like over the season on these control maps. Those are always going to be first. We don't want ties to start this off with, and they're always going to be last in those game 5s. You don't want ties to end these matchups with. And I do believe, you and Rich Rad just got a little tie action too, right? Like literally why we have control points 1st and 3rd, right? Or 1st and 5th, excuse me.
Yeah, Hanamura was tied in the last series, and I think you bring up a great point about control in general. It's a very different kind of map type than anything else you see in Overwatch, and also it's the most likely map to be won by the team that is of lesser skill. And that's not to take away anything from Colorado, but time and time again you'll see that it's very brawly, it's very all over the place. So sometimes teams that are better individually than as a team in terms of like team play and coordination, they can just win through pure mechanics. Now the question is, can Colorado keep up that great play mechanically as well as coordinatedly, which is something they're going to have to do as they started out on attack here on Hollywood.
Yes, sir. I am partially saying this for myself and partially saying it for our viewers. Definitely for you as well, Jack. But UTA and University of Colorado have swapped. I would be calling these two teams the wrong name throughout the entirety of this match if I had to notice that. UTA stacked up top, nice little defensive setup. Looking like huge sources of damage when it comes to the Echo and the Hanzo. Little wrist action. It's not frequent that we'll see her so much anymore, especially after some of our changes recently, right?
It's very interesting right now because you're seeing the composition that's coming out from Colorado. They are trying to just knock off UT Arlington from this high ground, but there's just so much spam damage coming out. It's going to be very hard for them doing them. You're seeing the Echo very low over and over again, but there is a first pick on the Super Juice, so all of that main healing is gone.
Alright, this looks... Okay, nope, excuse me. I was going to say this looks like just a little bit cleanup action, but Ultra Polito taking 1, Graves taking 2. And now UT Arlington all over this one. Yes, they're on defense, but it'd be kind of surprising this happens so early. So my question to you is at what point if you're a UTA member, at what point do you tell Super Juice you just gotta play a little bit more conservatively, right?
I mean, I think it comes down to just the team as a whole. As you see, they're playing on the low ground. They're not even going to try contesting the high ground. They're going to play the back of the point. And I think that's a much better call here, so that way no one can get knocked down or separated. And you just want to play as a 6. You want to play all together. You want to make sure that all that healing can be there in the group, because Baptiste is AoE, so those grenades being thrown into everyone.
Yes, everything he does is AoE. Dragons down Main Street here, as that's going to be two different players here. That's for University of Colorado, just barely getting out. Little focus beam action. Dez making it look easy.
Yeah, I think Colorado have to swap off of this. The Baptiste doesn't really make sense to me in this composition. You want really fast supports, and Baptiste is more stationary. So I think something like a Moira would make sense. Maybe have an Ana, because even though she is stationary, at least she can do much longer range healing, because she has no arc. Well, Bap does have an arc, so those grenades might not always be as accurate as you expect them to be. They do have the Amplification Matrix. It's all they have on Ryan right now, but I'm not even sure how you use it. You can't really use it for damage boost, because you're going to be using it for healing if everyone's in front of you.
I'm with it. Ruby has been a damage sponge all day in the fall earlier, continuing that theme now, but managed to stay alive. Very, very impressive. I'm not saying anything negatively about that one. Dez in the front here, just really providing a lot of support to block off this main chokehold, but back up top as Dez comes out. Nicely done. Good coordination there between the Orisa, that's Tomato Lord, and Dez on that Echo. Both Echoes forced on out here as Tomato Lord is who we're moving on with. Both tank ultimates on board for UTA, so they're going to be in a really good position coming up here. Super Juice with the late window?
Yeah, just it's an all you get back pretty quickly. That change that came through right now on the experimental patch where it increases the cost, not happening just yet, so I'm sure we'll see Super Juice have it back during this fight, honestly. And here's the Gravitic Flux coming out early in combo with the pole.
And does get it, but just, yeah, I guess that's a perfect example of what happens if you Gravitic Flux by itself. Now, it was a great job of blocking this out, but simply by itself, not going to a whole lot can't get done. University of Colorado just kind of positioning around here. They'll be getting it back here in just a second. There you go. Now and this is kind of back to your point of Lucio would be awesome right here, especially given they know they're going to be defending from high ground. Darko trying to report down bottom. Big charge, but just the simple fact that Ultra Pulido takes not one but two headshots against both tanks. The entire tank core from University of Colorado killed by Ultra Pulido with just a couple storm arrows like that.
I just think anything besides the Brigitte would be good. I talked already about why the Baptiste isn't great, but Brigitte, unless you're, going right into the opponent, there isn't much that can be done with her. The rally was there, but now the Lucio swap's coming out just a bit too late, and they don't touch. They have the blade. They just use it, but they just aren't able to get onto the point, and it looks like Funkmaster was right on the edge too, so I'm not sure if they were in the middle of the air when the timer expired or what happened there, but that's a big misplay by Colorado.
Truly, I hate to see it. It feels bad, man. Heartbreak Hotel checked in, whatever you want to call it. That sucks. University of Colorado not able to touch right there, so they're going to be staring down the barrel of a situation that is literally just tie at this point, right? Oh, hey, this be map 2. That'd be something you're familiar with, right?
It could be a tie here, but it's pretty unrealistic, I think.
I'm saying their best reality is a tie, right? They cannot win at this point, right?
Yeah, Colorado, they cannot win anything. They did not get a tick. They cannot win at least this map. They can win still the series. They did not get a tick, so nothing that can be done there. Best situation is a draw, and it's possible, but it's pretty improbable. This is a first point. The spawn is pretty close for UT Arlington, so it's not like a 2CP map where, the assault map type where the spawn is really far away for the attacker. So even if UT get only a few picks here and there, if they're able to come back in full force and the respawns haven't happened for Colorado yet, they should be able to take that fight pretty swimmingly. And I just think right now their composition is a bit better. Brigitte, she got nerfed recently, so there was a bit of a time where she was being played in double shield instead of Zen, but now that she's 25 health weaker, that makes a whole world of a difference. And again, if you're playing a bit farther away and the DPS you have, the Echo and the Ashe, sure, you can armor pack them, but your primary way of healing is your Inspire. You can only do that by wailing away.
I'm with it, and then that just simply forces them to stay close by if they do get low. If they're out and about, not going to be ideal. Cloud and the rest of University of Colorado Opting for the high ground hold again. Not bad so far, but that is very bad. The main tank here. Ruby does have that Sigma shield, but that's just a little bit hard. Well placed Dynamite here, but now Ruby down as well. Funkmaster switching on over to that ball to try and get back. Dez on top. They only need a tick, and I think this one has a bow on it.
Yeah, just to wrap it all the way up. Only an Ashe on the point. The Wrecking Ball is going to come in from Funkmaster, but once you lose your Orisa in a double shield mirror, it is almost impossible to win it unless you have some ultimates built up. And you're not going to have ultimates built up if the round just started. A very quick and clean finish there for UT Arlington to take a map and even up the series. So sure, they can bleed, but they can also just punch you right back.
Yeah, the main narrative here, I believe, is the simple fact that UTA took this with the speed that they did. University of Colorado took their W in 3 maps, a little bit longer here. But hey, end of the day, maps and map, we're tied up 1-1. Basically purchased ourselves a best-of-3 series after this tied-up series, map 1 going the way of UT Arlington. That was 2-1. And now map 2 going, I guess 1-0, which is not something you see very often on a hybrid map, going for the side of UTA against University of Colorado. Tied up here, and unless you have something else, I do believe it's time for a break, Jag.
Yeah, just a little anecdote I would say very quickly is that I hate that it's only a 1-0 score because I feel like that doesn't really show how good UTA was on the defense and offense, but that is the score they get, and with that, let's take a break.
With it, we'll be back with you guys. Some Overwatch. And we are back here. We told you it'd be a short break. FBI Tugboat with my man Jag, and then that's Juke down there in producer's box, producing away, making our jobs as casters just so much easier, and we do appreciate him. This is week 8 of 16, the end of this fall split here for the EGFC. That's the Electronic Gaming Federation collegiate side, and we have, UTA and University of Colorado tied up 1-1 as we head on into Hanamura.
Absolutely, and this has been a pretty back and forth series, especially on that first map. Nepal, it went down to the wire, it went down to that last point, and it was pretty close. But then UTA, they took that map loss on the chin, they regrouped, and then they had an amazing Hollywood. So we talked about it a few times. Yes, UTA, they are not going to have the perfect split. They have dropped maps. They've dropped now 2 to be specific across 8 games so far, but it doesn't matter when you can still win out and get an 8-0 on the split, get that undefeated split going into the spring. That's what you really want, and they came back with a vengeance there on Hollywood.
Yeah, they really did. Nepal just simply looking different, like you said. Something else you said that I have to agree with. It was 1-0 here for map number 2, and perhaps that's almost like a small flaw with 2CP, right? Like the numerical difference there isn't really indicative of how the match can go, simply because if the team who ends up losing is on attack first, then all you need is a single tick if there's a full hold. That's exactly what we saw there, and I think just to speak critically, I think that there could have been different looks at some of the healing cores from both of these squads.
It seems like Zen Bap is really what you want to be running for the double shield, because there's a lot of heal potential and there's a lot of damage potential. The Zen Discord Orb is huge, but also the volleys, just the shots from the Zen, and the Baptiste. Baptiste's primary fire still does quite a lot of DPS. At one point did more than Soldier 76. I think that has been changed now with the Soldier changes, but still Bap does a lot of damage. And the problem that you saw for Colorado is they wanted to take the fight to them. They were trying to go for a bit of a rush dive comp, and they just could never you saw the wrecking ball kind of caught out a few times. In there, you just saw the double shield that UT Arlington had. They would punish the divey mechanics that University of Colorado had. But now we're going to see double shield versus double shields. Bit of a variation from the defense. The Mercy instead of the Zens. They had the Resurrection online. But other than that, it's pretty similar across the board. The only other difference is the Ash versus the Echo. See how that works out. Cloud, as we talked about during the breaking down broadcast, has been an X factor here, but is it enough to get Colorado across the board? It looks like the overlays currently are not swapped, but it is going to be Colorado on the defense first, UT Arlington on the attack.
Yeah, so UTA in the red on the right, University of Colorado left in the blue. That's, again, mostly for me. That's fine. So far, defense with Colorado on the red looking like... Oh my goodness, I just messed it up again. I'm gonna avoid that completely. Isaiah back here, just trying to get some chip damage in. That's 1, now 2 shields deleted for the side of UTA. This main choke point here on Hanamura Point A always going to be a big deal, but now looking like a good little workaround so far that they found it. Ultra Polito, did fall here. Invincibility field invested decently early. Dez falling on the side of the defense, on the side of the offense. Just go, Jag.
There's one thing I know about Cloud, it's that he loves a Mercy pocket, and the Mercy is great here because of that Resurrection, so you don't have to worry about Funkmaster coming back from spawn. You don't have to worry about UTA trying to get a bit of a snowball here, because if you get a pick here or two, even if you lose the fight, you can get back a lot quicker on the attack, but it is going to be a solid hold for Colorado. That Mercy coming in clutch, and Illicit already gonna have the Amplification Matrix online, but Super Juice has one of their own, so we might see dueling garage doors come out here.
Not one, but both. Shields invested and a window put in between. Ruby falling early here, and Invincibility field invested early as well. This University of Colorado has got a couple picks so far. There you go. That's the exact performance that we need. Illicit finding a couple headshots on that one. And something going for the squad. Cloud a little bit farther out here, but has teammates nearby. Ultra Polito trying to get chip damage in from the side, and UTRA realizes it is time to get out of dodge.
Again, it's playing the objective. Colorado, they gave up a free tick there. They had people that could have rotated to the point, but just weren't able to because of the position they were in. So Cloud get really weak, had to hide during that entire engagement. Now, again, it's still a 6v6, even though they lost someone early on, and Cloud does have that bomb, but they're going to use a Gravitic Flux first.
Fantastic timing there at the last from Cloud. In between shields, did find a headshot that was not blocked off. Dragons invested, and that's Darko barely getting into the light. Cloud on the side, just really trying to get damage against these shields. Again, double shield always going to be a big deal. Orisa, that Tomato Lord down bottom, getting a lot of attention too, and going to be absolutely melted down. They could have used that Funk Master. So actually, no, excuse me, that's the University of Colorado's Orisa that fell, not Tomato Lord, the one who was in trouble right previously there. 90 seconds to go, 40% on point. UTA not looking too bad so far, and now the rotations from Dez start taking this progress. Cloud, he almost has the number. Cloud looking like they put a fingernail of health left as University of Colorado trying to get some damage in, but that's going to result in, what, 2-3 members down and a full retreat.
It just seems like their positioning for Colorado hasn't been as good. You saw UT Arlington every time has opened it up with a pick, and yet finally they're able to break the door down and actually get the full cap. Bird Boys, you had the Valkyrie online, you had to use it there when the Flux was used. It would have kept everyone off. You could have used it just to go for the res onto Funkmaster. When you're flying around, it's a lot harder to hit that Mercy. I know that it was not exactly the most ideal place for the res, but sometimes you gotta go for the risky plays, and now that Dragon is gonna separate the tanks from the rest of the team.
Looks like they handled it very well, actually. Funkmaster and Ruby now feeling confident enough to start firing shots down this tunnel. Finds Ultra Polito in the thick of things. No mercy on the side of UTA means no res for you guys. They'll have to be either pushing very courageously or just simply wait for this huge source of damage in the Hanzo to come back.
Absolutely, that is going to be a bit of a minor reset, but they're going to be taking this high ground still, so they're going to be trying to contest it in just a little bit. You see that it's a bit split right now for Colorado on the defense. They're actually going to have to drop a little bit, but Ruby's going to try to commit that Flux, and it's not going to find anything because the Orisa used the Fortify ability.
Yeah, so cooldown management there from the Orisa, realizing that it's just simply not time to use it so far. Probably a little bit ult tracking as well, knowing the grid flux might have been there. High Noon trying to change the clock, not gonna matter. Dragons from the side do catch the fair end. The last couple hairs on the head of Dez there, or the head of Dez who was High Nooning. UTA taken down there, and University of Colorado stabilizing at point B.
Yeah, I guess saw the Battle Mercy come out a little bit. Everybody's gonna whip out the Mercy Glock at the end there. They use a lot though. They use every ultimate except for the Nano. So their ult pick not looking so clean right now, but it's okay because they got ultimates out from UTA as well. Create's gonna have the only ultimate on the other side, and the fact that they have an Ana instead of a Baptiste could be a huge disadvantage here. There is no immortality field to save those who are half health in that Sigma ultimate, and now with that Reinhardt swap, they're not even gonna bother with the high ground. They're just gonna push right onto the point.
A very early transcendence from Darko. We may not have seen it, and may not have seen how much damage it was, but hey, he is definitely a higher skill player than me. Oh my god, nobody touches! That is what Heartbreak Hotel checked into for the second time in this matchup between University of Colorado and UTA.
Again, the objective Colorado, it's not about getting kills only, it's about playing the point. No one to contest it, and it just happened so many times in the series, but it has not cost them nearly as much as it did right there. That was very much holdable for a good while. Maybe they would have lost that fight and given up the full cap, but they could have held out for another 30 seconds minimum, right? I mean, the spawn is so close. We talk about how usually on assault, the defense can just keep running it back, running in with the faster heroes for that stall potential. So you can see the Wrecking Ball, the Lucio, the Moira, the Tracer, etc., just kind of run back in, but instead they just completely lose track of what's most important there, and it might cost them a lot. See, Arlington, they finished with a little bit less than 2 minutes, a pretty solid time bank here on Hanamura.
This is dual snipers shown from the University of Colorado. I'm not against it. They got, what, 4 minutes to play with? Now with Bird Boys on the Zenyatta, that's looking like a huge just kind of burst damage comp, right? Just try and get this in however you can, take picks, and as soon as one falls from UTI, the idea will be just to flood all the way in there. I guess everybody on the side of University of Colorado except for the Zenyatta does have a movement ability of some sort, so...
Yeah.
Wait, no, the Sigma does not either.
Well, Sigma technically has the Gravitic Flux, right? So they can use that to get up in the air, but that takes a little bit while to get online. You're seeing the Rhine Sigma come out, so they're trying right now to try to replicate what we saw from UT Arlington at the end. They're going to just try to set up that Widow up in the back, create good sight lines for her by pushing in with these double tanks. They have the Reinhardt, so they have more mobility, and they have just more shield potential in general, but still, this spam that's been coming out all series from UT Arlington has been great, and Ultra Polito got to find their counterpart there.
Yeah, little Discord orb on top, gonna make it a little bit easier. University of Colorado on the offense here, probably going to have to just come back a little bit. This again, trying to push these without your Hans is just gonna make for a bad day, straight up.
If your Widow can find the angles, it's a huge value. If you can find the squishier heroes like a BAP or Zen on the other side, it's very easy to win these fights. The problem is right now, they're just sitting behind the shields. Now they're going to be moving in, so now there's being space made for these snipers, and yeah, there is the first pick coming out from the Hans on the side of Colorado.
That is the exact opposite of what just happened with the University of Colorado losing their Hanzo. Their Hanzo now finding a pick and doing exactly what UTA did earlier, kind of that rotation early in there, but not the full commit. Now several different players falling on this one. And University of Colorado on their first actual push in, at least going to be getting 75. Yeah, nobody's on UTA is going to be able to get that back there in time. Unless Darko just goes absolutely insane, does not hit anything but heads.
You got the infra sights, you got the shatter. Both of those ultimates almost online. How do you play this? Do you just run it down middle and try to take the point, try to take a tick, just like UTA did, or do you try to take the high ground? They're going to try to take the high ground, and I do like this play because if you can clear it, then you can set your snipers up there and then just have a shooting gallery. You saw Cloud not contested at all in that last fight and was able to just go ham, but already they've lost Bird Boys.
Yeah, you can guarantee he was speeding through on this, but just everybody in UTA knows where they're at, so it's going to be kind of hard to get through on this one.
I mean, that might be a bit of an overcommitment there by Super Juice, using that amplification matrix. I think they could have held on to that.
Yes, earlier, I would not have been against the University of Colorado just going down the middle, right? It literally just worked. They have the Lucio, have a couple ultimates on board. Why not? As it is, going up top yields and disaster so far.
Well, the amplification matrix offline, so nothing currently online for UT Arlington, but a lot of ultimates just around the corner. So if Colorado wants to shine, it might be now or never, or they might get stalled out for quite a while. The Supercharger now is ready for Tomato Lord, but it's going to be the Gorilla Class coming out first.
Nobody. No, he did get one there, but again, the Orisa wisely keeping on to the end. Now that's a shatter to end all shatters. Big kills against huge source of damage. The Hanzo, huge source of healing. The Baptiste here. Funkmaster actually gets kind of ahead of himself there. I gotta say, kind of seems a little bit. That's going to be the stairs, looking as the location for both of these dragons. Not one, but both, as they are trying to get kind of damage in sideways here, but now just gets absolutely focused by people who did come back. University of Colorado not out of this one quite yet. They've got about, what, maybe 20% on this one, but 33 will be where they get their first tick of progress. Darko trying something here, but it's going to be the ball in the middle that so far that is stalling this out. Now 50%, up to 62. Really need to get to 66. Charge out in the middle of everything, and Ultra Polito takes down Funkmaster while he is vulnerable. Still not gotten 66 though, so this is a very long-winded fight that could yield nothing past the first tick of progress. 3:25 or so on the clock here. Ultra Polito getting up close and somehow living. There it is. There's the Tri-Rockets. They take him down. Defense is stabilized. No second point for you, my friends.
And I gotta think they might have been able to get close to the end there if they had played the point after they hit the shatter. Instead, they go for the kills. Funkmaster falls, and now this fight is just not going their way whatsoever. Arlington's gonna stabilize. They do give up 2 ticks in the end. That second tick did come in at the end there, so they only need one more. 69.9% right now on the clock for University of Colorado, and I'm sure Twitch chat is thinking the same thing you just were. But I think this is really good for Colorado. I think it's really good for Colorado, actually, because look at the all ping for UT Arlington. It's completely reset. The only thing they're going to have is an M Matrix at best. There are going to be 4 ultimates coming out right now for Colorado.
Ruby's so close to this one now. Here comes a Critic Flux. Well placed on it. I think he got multiple members, not 100% sure. Funkmaster tries to come up and do the same thing and gets absolutely put down where he stands. Did not live for any amount of time. That reminds me of the Reddit meme about, like, you know, the state of Overwatch is in now, right? And Reinhardt's and it just stunned City. And that's literally just what happened.
Yeah, that passive was added, so the CC not as bad anymore for Reinhardt, but you saw there, Alyssa just throwing in that lamp a little bit too late. Funkmaster getting a little bit too far forward, and there is another attack push going down the drain now. They're not going to be able to cap with more time. They can still cap with a considerable amount of time, pretty close amount of time, if they get it done in this fight. But if they don't win it here, it's going to start getting very dire. They only have 2 more fights at most after this, and they're already taking their sweet time here with this rotation.
Yeah, so going all the way up to top platform, not going to be the move. A misplaced window on that one. The Super Juice now has that behind the enemy lines of University of Colorado. Did get a little bit up top there, but that's now going to be completely negated. University of UTA is now down bottom. There you go, and the aimbot finding all the value in the world. University of Colorado heard those calls, Jag. They are not wasting any time on this one. Only, what, 33 seconds down from where UTA finished their second point push.
That could be a fight or a re-engage at the end of the day, but still a good time big for this team. And you saw here that just like the shatter is really opens things up. And I would say right after you got that second kill, just drop to the point. Don't chase it. And that's why it took longer than it needed to, but still able to get the job done. This was a perfect rotation by them. They force out the square from Super Juice. It does not get a lot of value. They walk right through it. They use a square of their own. They take the perfect positioning for that tactical visor from the Soldier 76. And 1, 2, 3. That is the last hit going the way of Colorado. And because they got less time on the clock, they're going to be giving it a go again on the attack first.
Yes, sir. Bird Boys looking a little switch action onto the Lucio. I think really the narrative at the end of that game was the difference in the two Baptiste window placements, right? Like UTA's puts theirs out and it's way too far back. University of Colorado just literally rotates into it. Only gives value on shots that go through it, and then Alyssa just has the absolute perfect placement to then pair with the Attack Visor.
Yeah, it was just a great play, and ultimate combinations like that are pretty common in a game like this, but it's very hard to execute it, especially against double shield, because Attack Visor can't shoot through shields, but there just found players out of position. The Shatter was thrown in as well. Was able to just mine the gap there between the shield and where that Sigma fell, and was able to find that kill that was oh so important. Now we're going to see if they can get it done once again. This time, they're going to have an Ashe without any mercy. Going to be sticking to that Lucio, so they will have the speed to get in, but already they're being melted down.
Again, this first point is be so crucial. Ruby finding a good one to Ultra Polito. University of Colorado may have found their window on this. Cloud Note has his target absolute number. Baptiste, he's got to hit another one. Misses 3 in a row. He knows what just happened. Gave anybody spectating just that little shake. Little knowledge that he knows what's up. Listen here, this is going to be not one but two supports with the DPS, and nicely done there. That was Super Juice trying to get a little wonk outside, just trying to go outside, get a little bit of Lucio healing on top, but that's University of Colorado now taking first point.
Yeah, that's huge for them. Even if they don't get this second point, just getting a little bit of leeway here to make sure that, they could draw this out, or they can just win it outright. It's a great momentum boost for them. And that Shatter, again, is pretty close to being online, so they might have a win condition here. They only have 40 seconds, so realistically, this is last fight. Maybe they lose one person, they're able to just back out and then get a last-second contest, but it's either here or never for the second point.
And now or never, yes sir. Funkmaster very close to that Gravitic Flux. Catches a couple of these, I do believe. The invulnerability field invested. Funkmaster getting a little bit lower, and he was at an even 100. That's going to be easy bait for Tomato Lord's Fire Strike. A full team wipe against University of Colorado.
Yeah, that's going to be the end of that. A solitary burp there to put the end of that attack, and Bird Boy is actually able to touch. Wow, that's an amazing Lucio tech play, but just gonna fall in the end. I still don't think it's gonna be enough. A great recontest, but it's gonna be all for naught. The Shatter is not gonna be able to come out, and just a great Gravitic Flush that came out early on from Creates. The Immortality Field was just a little bit late. I'm not sure if Bird Boys was in it or what happened there, but once they lost to Lucio, it was lights out. Still 1 point on the board for them, so if they're able to hold UTA to a full hold on the first point, they'll take this map, and if they lose it, at best they can do on this map is draw.
No, I'm with it. Now just to kind of restate what I said earlier, right? The Hanamura was the map that was drawn last time, as it is after a first point take from UTA. Yeah, that would be 2 in a row. I said it incorrectly earlier. The map 2 was the draw. If UTA takes that on first point, which makes a lot of sense, and then doesn't get anything on second, that's the exact situation we'd be in here, and we've effectively purchased ourselves at least 2 more rounds of Overwatch, so that would be about it. It would be interesting to see, especially in our Week 8 of the fall split of the EGFC, and especially with the UTA squad that is 7-0 so far, 4-3 from the University of Colorado.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's kind of 8 weeks of, momentum from these teams that have been building into this, so you see the teams are playing their best at the end because they've had practice, they've had all of these games, so you can really see teams that maybe haven't played as well rise up to the occasion, play at a new level, and that's what we're seeing from Colorado right now. And UTA, they've been a torchbearer for us so far in this season, in this league. They've been one of the top 3 teams. They have been, you know, tied in this undefeated race. So they really have a lot to prove right now. If they lose this matchup, sure, it's not the end of the world. They'll still be great positioning in the standings. Yet I think, you know, some of that, all they've done, like, it's kind of like British Hurricane and Contenders. They did so well for so long just to lose the last one.
There is the wall. Funkmaster falling, trying to get an advantage from it. That's Ruby now down, Kratos as well, so tank for both sides. Dez falling as well. University of Colorado looks like they're holding on for the time being. As it's done.
And they have that Mercy online still, so they can get that res, and so Ruby falling, it's not going to mean anything. You get Sigma back online, and now it looks like this Reinhardt and Baptiste are just kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yep, smart idea there for Darko. Just come on. They don't want to waste any more time. Don't want to feed any more ultimate.
And now it's only a minute left for UT Arlington. Sure, they have Amplification Matrix once again. They have that garage door that can help amplify damage and healing, but if they can't rotate well onto the point or take a high ground positioning, it's not going to mean too much. It is how they won the last point, though. We saw Ruby just too far out last time. That's what really opened this up for UT Arlington on their first attack. They could just try to use it right here at the door as they push in.
Another wall out. I don't think anybody got caught behind it. Nope, here we go. That's Ultra Polito on that Hanzo. Now getting up close, and perhaps it's best for him that he didn't get to the other side. Res invested here. Bird Boy is going to be having that res on a 30-second cooldown. Gravitic Flux out and creates found from his counterpart. A lot of damage in. University of Colorado stabilizing so far. 12 seconds, and I don't think anybody's going to get on there, at least without changes. Creates on the ball.
They still have that May alive, they still have the freeze, they still have the wall that can be used, and they're going to use that wall just to stop anything from happening. The Blizzard going to be thrown in, and that is going to be a huge map going the way of University of Colorado. I talked about upsets very briefly. Wichita State losing to UConn, I think that was a pretty big upset last week. But this, or, you know, 2 weeks ago, because it's week 7, but we had last week off. But this right here, Colorado can get this final map. That has to be the upset of a decade. I mean, definitely Colorado isn't, you know, again, they've been like upper tier of the table, and if they're able to do this, I mean, this would just be huge. It would totally like change the landscape of EGFC going into the spring split.
Yeah, the very, very last opportunity to change it before what our Vincentian playoffs here next week. Like that would be monumental. And literally, what we're looking at a UTA team that has only dropped one single map throughout what I think it was 6 weeks. Dropped a map in week number 7, and we wouldn't have our narrative right now if we didn't have that map drop last week. Now it is a University of Colorado squad that has taken not 1 but 2 maps off of UTA. UTA only able to have gotten the 1-0 victory there on Hollywood, which again, score may not have been super indicative of how not close that was really. But in the day, that's our narrative so far. University of Colorado has momentum, a little fire in their belly, and everything else as we head into a map number 4 that could be the University of Texas Arlington's last shot here in the regular season of the EGFC for the fall split.
Absolutely, and you know, regardless, again, if they lose here today, they're still in great positioning. But how does that affect you going into the spring? You know, you were this untouchable, dominant force throughout 7 weeks, and then you drop 1 map, and then here we see the dominoes falling just a little bit. It's still very winnable for them. A 3-2 could be in their favor. We could see a map 5, maybe even a map 6. It's very unlikely because Escort is very hard to draw, but who knows? They got to win Escort here to keep this series alive. Colorado, they got to win it here to put this series to bed. And 3-1 win. That's a huge scoreline because generally you'd see something like this and think, oh, well, 3-2, it was still a very close series, but 3-1, that speaks volumes.
That really, really would. Not pushing it all the way, but we'll see what happens here on Junkertown. It is a chaotic town for a reason. All different things are possible here, and this will not be the wildest of them. 2-1 is, again, this might be UTA's last stand here. What we saw Junkertown be the place where it was decided on last matchup. That was the 2 teams that you did, whose names are escaping me right now. UTA. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it was, this is where the last series ended up too. It was Wichita State ending up taking it, so you can see if they end up taking it again here on this map, or we see a map 5. We'll see how that ends up. And right now, University of Colorado on this attack. I'm not going to take anything they're doing too seriously for the tank line. Sigma Winston, that would be something I would not expect, but this DPS lineup is something that is very expected, and it's a good counter actually to what UT Arlington is running if they can keep them at bay. But you know why UT Arlington is running this very close-knit, uptight damage or up close damage, because they're going to be playing right at that spawn door. I was talking about this in the last series. This is a great way to play this map. Even if you lose this fight, it kills so much time off the clock.
Yeah, but right there, Maywall up front first, so UTA knows that they have that ability to kind of purchase themselves a little bit of breathing room on that. Cloud actually getting called out as he ventures out from spawn door. 5 to 6 for the University of Colorado. The spawn will come back very, very quickly, but can I be surprised? There you go. I was going to say, can I be surprised that they stick with the Widowmaker with this up close and personal? Cloud on the McCree, that makes a lot more sense. He is the dueler. Both shields invested up front. Bankmaster is getting super low, but Rubies is the one that just gets absolutely melted. Both Sigmas here. We are a Sigma-less 5v5 right now between UTA and University of Colorado. Illicit invests that invincibility field early, but Isaiah falling on the side. Again, the offenders just not really finding a way in edgewise so far.
Yeah, I mean, might see Ruby fall once again, but it is going to be Cloud finding a pick on the Super Juice, so that Lucio is going to be gone. They have that spawn advantage. Funkmaster will be back in a second. There is no speed now for UTA. They'll be able to run in if they stop getting balled off.
Yeah, that's the easier said than done situation. Darko gonna have to come out of that in the very end, and the perfect timing on the May freeze goes down and shields him from any various Dragon Strike damage. What's up?
That was a great play, right? I mean, they countered the Shatter that Tomato Lord had. They had that Dragon Strike purposely there to get UT Arlington either like killed or just like moved back, and
yeah,
Colorado finally able to win that fight. I will say though, a minute and a half gone now on this attack, so that's exactly what UT Arlington wanted to do, and they accomplished it. They killed a lot of time off the clock.
Exactly, yeah. While you're on defense, just eating time away will be to your advantage. Window out early, Illicit there, and Super Juice being way too aggressive. Looks for a boop or something edgewise, not going to happen. Shields up, mostly blocking it off. These players shouldn't come back in it, but there's the Shatter, and that's what's really followed up these high noons very often in this matchup so far. Funkmaster falling to a net well-placed charge from his counterpart. Rubidic Flux out as Ruby's just trying to get back the rest of his team. Nice rock against his counterpart. Nicely done. Kraves falling there. Ruby just absolutely had his number. That's going to be a Transcendence out that I'm not 100% sure was necessary. Even if they lost one, their spawn door is pretty close.
Yeah, I agree, because also Kraves is about to have that Gravitic Flux online. They also have the Shatter online and the Death Blossom, so there's going to be no defensive ult here. There is an On Asleep. They swapped off of the Baptiste, but that's can only do one. You can only cancel one of those ultimates out, and it's still a very hard shot to hit.
There's a Shatter. Isaiah gets hit in left field from this. Just from my estimations, I would have thought even out of the wave damage on that. I don't know. Oh well. 3 meters and a third left on this one as University of Colorado members take the plunge. That makes sense. Don't want to feed any ultimates and come back at this one 1:05 o'clock.
That was all of the ultimates that UT Arlington had online, except for the May Outlaw season in the previous fight. So that's 5 ultimates to win that fight. Colorado, they're going to be coming back with 3 ultimates of their own, so they have things to use right now. The question is it enough to get them over that edge? We saw the High Noon put up a lot of value on control, but here, maybe not as much, and they've already lost their tank line.
Yeah, the High Noon invested there towards the end. Not going to really matter too much, but now Cloud on point. Dez trying to get up close. That's going to be contest for time being. Oh my god, as soon as he comes out, Cloud just absolutely has that number. Gives him the 1-2 piece to Darko on the other side. That was a UTA member who was just trying to stall out, trying to waste out this time. Cloud's not going to have any of it.
That is going to be the first one. It took them a while to get it, but they are able to get it done. They have ultimates still built up. They have the Shatter, the Gravitic and the Nano, and it's just so interesting to see the Ana versus the Moira battle right now. Usually you see Baptiste and something like this, even with more of a hybrid double shield with Orion and Sigma, but instead they're going for a bit of an alternative thing, and so far Illicit again on this Ana getting some very nice nades. The Moira just hasn't been enough healing.
Nice charge on that one. Ruby again, he just, I said it earlier, I'll say it again, huge bullet sponge, just use sponge for damage on this one. It seems like whenever there's a practical team kill against University of Colorado, Ruby's going to be unfortunately the man who does fall first. Still getting progress on this one. 2 minutes to go.
Just a Lonely Zen trying their best to stay alive there. That was a bit of an overcommitment from University of Colorado. They used the Shatter and the Nano after they already lost one. They weren't able to finish up the kills. They weren't able to kill Dez, who has been just a nightmare on this map with these walls. Has done a great job, and now the alt bank, it completely flips. UT Arlington, they have built up a little little bit of a reserve for themselves. There's a lot of combinations they could use it with, but I'm sure that Coalescence is going to be the first thing they're going to be looking to use. And nope, it's going to be Ruby with a greater flux on the other side, but there's the pull after.
A little Hanzo back and forth, two different high grounds. Ruby getting stunned off at the very, very front of this as he tried to engage the Tomato Lord Reinhardt. Dez over on the side. Dez gets absolutely 1v1 down by his Zenyatta. That's Bird Boys popping off right now. Looking for a little bit more too. He's not willing to die quite yet. Love to see it. You do. You really do.
Yeah, Bird Boys had a great transcendence that was able to keep them
Jazz
alive, but yeah, that is the Jazzy Lucio. I love that. I love the sound it makes when you swap over from heals to speed. But I'm sure right now, Boulder, they're not loving the sound of the fact that it is getting closer and closer to the end for their attack. That timer is at 52 seconds. Yes, they still have some ultimates to use to UT Arlington. Albeit it's just a bit better when that transcendence offline. There's nothing to stop this gravitic flux.
Drags down the middle. Cloud getting super low. Tomato Lord falling first. That's not good for UTA. There's a freeze to try and keep things alive. Dez falls though, and only what Reinhardt caught out in the middle. Cloud from Edgewise, not gonna happen. Super Juice answers that one like the male. Headshots and more. No advantage for you. Shatter down gets it. Oh man. I think we've all hit those shatters.
I just try to avoid playing around as much as possible, but we've all seen that before and just got a little bit overconfident there. The Nano was there and they committed 2 ultimates, got no value out of either. And with 5 seconds left, can anyone even touch the cart right now?
Second barely gets a toe in the very last second. Tomato Lord falling again. Saw this went last time. They go with UTA, but lots of picks falling. Ultra Polito up top, trying to find image on the Reinhardt here, and that's Zenyatta with the Bird Boys Transcendence, but not gonna matter. Didn't get the damage spread around. What, it's 300 health per second, but the area of effect there can be a little bit low. Still pushing in. Ultra Polito up top. This is gonna be a nasty little stagger.
Yeah, they are getting ultra depleted. I was thinking if Cloud had lost that fight, it might have been enough for Tomato Lord to get back in this fight. They touched, but it's just going to be a bit of a stagger from the rest of UTA one by one, not going to find anything. They needed 3 on the card there. They didn't have 3. They got the pick and set in. This is going to be a cap in overtime. This card is going to keep rolling odds of 0.3, but with only a minute and a half left, a full cap looks very difficult unless Colorado can win 2 or 3 fights in a row decisively.
Yeah, so I both agree with what UTA did there, and also just it sucks that it turned out for them right like that, right? They lose the team fight on point, they want to get back to get into overtime, but end up just really feeding into the ultimates of University of Colorado. Funkmaster almost on that shatter. Ruby just switched, obviously doesn't have a lot there, but Cloud literally almost has enough to make it 12 o'clock again. Crazy stuff. Super Juice with a well-placed headshot again. Really just been indicative of his play so far. Funkmaster falling, red and blue falling left, back and forth. Cloud trying to get a high noon in here, but just well done. Just kind of keep your cool on that one. Funkmaster flex. You got the healers on the back, making sure you're gravy. And this is actually still a really up and down fight. Nobody with a clear advantage on that. Yeah, now Dez not going to do well against these reinforcements.
Almost dies. The online was able to get a lot of the pulse bomb going to be thrown in, but not going to be able to find a stick there. And now, this is last fight territory, only 19 seconds on the clock. Cloud swapping to the window, so trying to go for that long-range DPS here once again. Didn't find success on that first point, but now there are good sight lines here. With the male going to be eaten by Ruby.
No! Ruby with a huge play to start this one off. Dez getting nothing from the Blizzard. Coalescence out. Darko doing his part here, but Bird Boys Transcendence going to keep it alive for the University of Colorado for the time being. Cloud super low. Healing and more. Darko forced to come back a little bit. Isaiah has his numbers. Dez falls in the front. Moira out back and just comes literally right back to give him a little bit of peace of his mind. That's Funkmaster falling on the end as well as Rubio. The tank core for the side of University of Colorado falling, and nobody's going to be able to touch this one.
It's really unfortunate. There were some really big plays that came out from Colorado at the end, but still they will get stopped before a full cap is completed. About halfway through that second point. Still pretty good for the fact that they got both of those points, the first and second one, in overtime. So came down to the wire quite a lot. Just didn't have the timing to get them to the end. Now, let's see if they can put up a good defense. All they got to do is make sure that it doesn't get to that golden box of victory. Have it the second point, and Colorado will walk away with the upset of the season here at EGFC Overwatch. You know, UT Arlington, they smell blood in the water. they've had success. Did a great job on Hollywood. They were able to hold quite well here on Junkertown, but can they put up an offense that will get them to that map 5?
Yeah, this would be a beautiful story for UTA, pushing this to a map number 5. You said it, I'm going to back it up. I think that would be the upset of the fall split of this fall times here for the EGFC across 8 different weeks. The simple fact of a storyline like 7-0 coming in, but just showing that little bit of weakness, right? Dropping that one single map last week, and now allowing for University of Colorado to take 2 off of them. Yes, correction. The University of Colorado was up 2-1 coming into Junkertown. Just got 2 points, 30 meters away from the last little endpoint there in overtime.
And look what we have here, dueling pirate ships. I was talking about this on the last game, and I was like, I really hope we don't see Bastion, because I don't like Bastion gameplay, but here it is. The difference is that there's going to be a Mei on the side of the defenders and a Hanzo on the other side. You see Cloud already going to have to back up because that Arista Shield has been kind of destroyed. I'm not sure how I feel about Colorado holding here on the low ground really close up. I feel like they would have had a better vantage point playing much farther back.
Yeah. Definitely don't do something like they just saw with the Mei up close and personal, but also definitely play this Cloud Bastion a little bit farther back if you're going to play it, and I can't emphasize that enough. Damage boost onto Cloud, that's we've been watching for a while, but tries to get out of tank form, or turret form, excuse me, and Ultra Polito's going to have his number. Res coming through, so Cloud is back. Dez finding one, Cloud falling at the end. University of Colorado has lost this initial team fight. UTA will get a solid little bit of extra point progress on this.
It's just the shields are destroyed much faster on the side of University of Colorado. They were never really able to set up properly, and again, I think it comes down to where they played. They wanted to go for that little bit of a combo with the Mei wall, but you saw University of Arlington, they knew it was coming. University of Texas Arlington, they saw it, and instead they just went all the way to the side, set up with their own Bastion, and now they're in a great position to cap this first point.
Shields out and more. Just trying to cover Dez here. Invincibility field invested early. Super Juice is pretty close to that window, but not there quite yet. There it is. Dez finding all the value in the world. This one much, much less even fighting than our first team fight. It's fair.
Yeah, this point went a lot faster than the first one, and I think a big part of that is, the pirate ship. It's really hard to stop it once it starts. It's very weak on the third point, but still here on the second point, you can find value out of it, especially if you sit up here on the high ground like UTA is trying to do. They're just gonna pop that Bastion right down there, just basically spam out as the defenders come out from spawn, and with that and a amplification matrix ready to go, that's gonna be a lot of damage if they can place it in the right spot.
And the idea is Ultra Polito will be getting in damage usually from another spot, but no, okay, the one bunker hold coming out from UTA so far. Ultra Polito was kind of flirting with that other main ledge there. Would have made a lot of sense, but nothing yet. Here it comes. There's the tank formation I was speaking of. Down bottom, shots well placed, but Tomato Lord tries to anticipate the shatter. That's going to bite him for that one. 4 minutes and really, really close to this next point, but Gravitic Flux invested gets a solid few on that. Ultra Polito now on the back. Storm Arrows and more, finding not one but 2 on that one. Tank and support as well, and UTA is rolling through here much more handily than University of Colorado did.
Yeah, this is looking a lot like Hollywood did. It seems like when there is a payload involved in the map, UTA, they just come alive. Now they are only half a point away from tying up the series and forcing a map 5, and they are just steamrolling so far. Colorado, they've made some swaps now, the Widow and the Genji. If they're able to build up a Nano Blade in time, that could be the difference maker, but Dez has just been a monster so far on this Bastion.
Maybe the Zaya Genji thing can just some interaction, nice flat given. Tries to disrupt things in the back and Cloud with a different source of damage. Not 100% sure, they're still rocking the 2 shield here, so it'll be kind of difficult to get sniper damage in, right? I don't know. Gravitic Flux in. Dez up top, dangerously close here, 2 meters away. Not going to happen this time as Cloud does find Dez on that Bastion, so that's going to be the first move here. Ruby paying with his life, not even 1 meter away as University of Colorado gotta get on top of this little sleep action. Tomato Lord getting very, very slow. A shatter directed exactly towards an Orisa shield, but it's not going to matter. That is UTA tying it up here on Junkertown with a, 3-2?
Yes, a 3-2 victory on that one. Great job from Colorado, but You know, they're just kind of, it seems like they're just defenses fall apart a little bit. You saw they try to run into the Bastion, they try to use ultimates against the Bastion, they focus too much on killing the Bastion that the rest of the team fight doesn't even matter. I mean, you saw they killed the Bastion there, but the Dragons came out, the Shatter came out. The Shatter didn't even find anything, but just a little bit of style points at the end. It was really that Dragon that ended that fight, was able to separate the Orisa, and from there, just able to get that final take. They didn't lose a fight the entire time on tack. I believe they won every fight. It just kept rolling and rolling. That payload did not stop for the most part. It was contested briefly, but other than that, it just, you know, UTA, they're showing us why they've been undefeated thus far in this split.
Yeah, seven matches so far. I really like how University of Colorado has been utilizing Cloud, especially there towards the end. It might have just been a little bit too late. I admit it, I wasn't fully about it, but taking out the Bastion was obviously and going to be the very, very first point of attack there when you're going up against your pirate ship setup. Now, we got Lijiang Tower here in last for our map number 5. Yes, we have gone the distance. We're going to go to a very short break, let these teams figure out what they want to recreate or not do again. So we head on in to the tied up 2-2 series, basically a one and done at the very, very end. And we are back here, 2-2, University of Colorado with 2, University of Texas Arlington with 2, and Lijiang is where it goes down. I'm FBI Tug, but I'm joined with Jag here for what will either be still monumental for UTA dropping their second map, or the third map total of the fall split, or University of Colorado with what we call the upset of the fall split. Yes, if they take this, they'll go 5-3 and give the first match loss to the UTA squad.
Absolutely, and it's basically a first to one at this point. Everything that's happened before, it doesn't matter. There's Colorado, yeah, they won the first control map, but that was Nepal. This is Lijiang Tower. It's very different, and you're seeing pretty similar comps across the board. The biggest difference is being the Moira versus the Ana, and then the Diva versus the Sigma. So a little bit more of a stationary comp coming out from UT Arlington, a little bit more for Colorado to run around. And you see Funkmaster going to be taking a nap and a plunge off the edge.
Wow, yeah, early too. UTA taking a handed advantage. No more Funkmaster on this one. Forced to come back towards inside camp and plays Unleashed Ultra Polito. Just really going back and forth. That's the player that we saw who's really just showing his skill and just getting simply out of the way of damage. Tomato Lord going for a little dive action here onto supports. Now coming back with more. This is a split University of Colorado squad, and that will result in a team fight loss 9 times out of 10.
Darko's really popping up on the Brigidas too. Flails off the side. Tomato Lord not going to be outdone. Gonna find some kills there as well. But if you can make the Brig work, it can work really well. And this is where you want to see Brig. You want to see it in a composition like this, where everything, all the fights are very up close and personal. Great stun, great crowd control for those click heroes like a Tracer or a Wrecking Ball. So Brigitte, definitely more of a welcome sight here than it was on previous maps, and Darko already has that rally online.
So if you get a little bit low here, Cloud doing what he can. This is one of the first times we've seen Cloud not play the hit scan that he seems so prominent at. Illicit falling first, huge source of healing gone for University of Colorado, and I think that's, I think we know what's going to happen after this one. Darko continuing on that pressure with the flail, getting boops and more. Wow, okay, 2 for 2 there.
Yeah, Darko has just been a nightmare so far for Colorado, as it's going to be 60% and counting before there's even a chance for a re-engage. UT Arlington, in the meantime, they've built up ultimates. They haven't had to use anything so far. They just continued to have this healthy ult bank, and this is down to 2 Fate territory. They could just use the mines here, maybe use one other ult, try to go for the wipe, and then use everything else they have for the last fight.
Yeah, and if University of Colorado takes their time getting to this, that might just push it to 1 fight territory. Good job taking out Parsifal to begin with. Another one invested from Cloud, not going to have the same result though. Coalescence out early. This is the list who is not able to enter the Shadow Realm, get out from that purple anti-grenade. And I think this is going handily the way of UTA is again as well. You talked earlier about how it seems like UTA was doing really well when it came to payloads, but looks like they're showing up on the control points as well.
Absolutely, they are showing up right now when it matters the most. It's that Overwatch factor, as my dear friend and fellow caster Septon to talk about. It's when you remember how to play the game, and right now, UTA, they were playing the game very well.
I wonder what that's like. This is University of Colorado trying to get on in here. Roxanne Moore invested is on board the creates, and yeah, this is just 6 members of UTA. You can focus down an individual. Still, shout out to Alyssa for staying alive that long. 100-0 will be what this was after Focus Beam takes down this Parsifal Moira, and there we go. 100-0 on the first point. Different matchup than our first control point all the way through.
Yeah, that was just all UTA all the time on Lijiang Gardens, and I really hope this isn't how the series ends. It's been so close, so back and forth, and to see 200-0s back-to-back would just really be just credit to how great University of Colorado has played tonight and how much of a fight they've put up. So now they're going to try to swap things up and see if they can even this up and force a 0.3. We already seen 1-2-1 go in their favor. Like we said earlier, 80% chance you win control if you win that first point, but that 20% chance is still very possible for this Colorado squad. They're going to be running the Symmetra May, so they're going to be trying to take that point quickly and just control it from there. You see Arlington, they're going to be doing the same thing. But instead of the May, they're going to have the Doomfist. So that's going to be a lot of up close and personal damage. That could be just a one-tap punch that could open up the fight in their favor.
Yeah, so Symmetra's both sides. Illicit, just invested the Lucio at the beginning for the speed boost. Trying to get through here. Maywall invested early on this, as is the vulnerability field. Super Juice not able to get through that. The rest of the squad, same thing on the other side. And UTA focusing damage. Oh my goodness, that is brutal. That is brutal.
Welcome to the microwave.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Tomato Lord was the only loss on that one.
Yeah, now they're going to get their Rhine back. Their teleporter's still up, so they have a pretty good chance now. And you're going to see the swaps coming up for Colorado. This is a good call. Not going to even bother the Symmetra anymore. We're going to try to go for the Pharah flank instead. The biggest thing, though, is they don't have a Mercy for this Pharah, so no extra damage, no pocket healing. It's going to be very difficult for this Pharah to really get in there. You got to break the turrets. You got to try to just get a lot of chip damage in it, and there is the Implication Matrix coming out from UT Arlington.
It's a decent angle established there from Isaiah, but again, just the idea here is that Parsifal will be the only one to really reliably give him those heals with those armor packs. It'll be a hard task indeed for Alyssa to angle those appropriately. As it is, the hit scan Super Juice does take out the Pharah up top, and Dez, there you go, microwave again. Our food is cold, Jag.
It's getting warmed up as Dez is going to find 4 in that fight. It's going to be Darko, though, looking to chase down Cloud. Cloud kind of caught on no man's land, just going to roll off the side of the mat with a little encouragement from Creates. And again, it's looking very similar to what we saw on the last point of Lijiang. UT Arlington, they just have the ultimates, they've built things up, and yeah, now we're going to see Parsifal swap over, so no Brigitte, now they're going to have the Mercy, but is it too late now? They are going to try to do some damage in the back line, but you're seeing already that Symmetra wall, not at the best angle, but it is going to be enough to be able to split themselves up if they lose a shield.
Acting like he's on timeout, just sitting in the corner so long, and now without A shield, I believe. No, it's not. Cloud on the McCree. The duelist once again. He's at 1. Oh, man. Shield up in the face. Nothing to be happened from that. University of Colorado gets mega close to at least taking this point, but they are, what, 15% away from that 200-0 that you talked about.
Yeah, they are mega close to losing this series. They have the Shatter online. They've swapped to a Reaper. They swapped to a Wrecking Ball. The Wrecking Ball is going to be their touch if they can make it there. They use the Adaptive Shields a bit too early, and they're going to be running right into an Amp Matrix.
Big Shatter, but the charge came in with Back Monster at the very end. Gave him a Fire Strike at the end as well. And oh my goodness, is they actually holding his own against a Dez. Barrage in the back. Yeah, okay, I was holding my breath there because it seemed like there was the wall out. That is going to be some very tight cleanup from the side of UTA. 3-2 situation overall for them as they take Lijiang Tower 2-0.
Yeah, that amazing upset is not going to happen today, but what a series we just watched. This was one of the best games I've seen in the entirety of the split. One of the best games I've casted ever. It was just, it was fun. It was exciting. There was a lot of great Overwatch, and it's really a shame that one of these teams had to lose today. Colorado, they are going to fall to 4-4, so they're going to be at even. They're not going to be positive. They're not going to be negative, and I'm sure it's a big bummer that they gave up that lead. They were up 2-1 going into that fourth map, but still it shows, you know, with a few roster changes, they can play and hang with the big boys. I think it just comes down to a few coordination issues. They gave up the point quite a bit for free, or just didn't play the objective as well as they should have. Sometimes got a little bit too kill oriented as opposed to being on the payload or just on the point. And when you clear those things up, you can end up being a real contender down the line. And UTA, it did take two map losses, now 3 in this split, but they still are able to come out 8-0 undefeated. They took some damage, they did bleed, but at the end of the day, they still are on top of the EGFC mountain.
I'm with it. What? So 6-3 zeros and 18-0 map count going into the last. Not 100% sure which map they did drop last week, but dropped 2 more this one. And if you're an UTA fan, you got to hope that is not indicative of how this team is going to perform here coming into the future. But if their performance here on Lijiang is any indicator, they will not have a problem with that. We got a little interview action coming up for you guys here soon between me and Jag. We'll be back with you guys in just a minute as we get this set up. And we are back. I'm FBI Tugboat. We got Jag here casting with me for a little interview action afterwards. Juke is down there in producer's box, and we do appreciate him. Yes, we got Super Juice. Super Juice, how are we doing?
Doing good.
Glad to hear. Glad to hear. And you are a support from the side of UTA, is that correct?
Yes, I'm the flex support.
That's awesome. Glad to hear. We're going to jump right into this. Both of my questions will be based on your control maps. Now, want to ask, were there any kind of mistakes that you guys saw on Nepal from the very beginning?
There were a bunch of minimal mistakes that could have easily be fixed, but I think our main issues were just positional awareness. Like most of our DPS were getting picked off before our team fight would even start, and we were just getting too aggro when it was unnecessary.
Gotcha. So just kind of like a lot of little things piling up.
Yeah,
I got you.
honestly.
I got you. Like I said, both my questions are going to be based on that control map. I wanted to ask about Nepal, your fifth map after UTA did take it 3-2 against University of Colorado. Was there any player in particular that you kind of thought was that it factor here on Nepal where you did 200-0 the side of University of Colorado?
On Lijiang, you mean?
Is that what I said?
You said Nepal.
Oh, did I? Yeah, we just asked about Nepal. I mean Li Jiang. You know what I'm talking about. You can read my mind. Super
Honestly,
Juice. There you go.
Darko kind of carried. He hit every one of his CCs. Honestly, I feel like it was a more compositional. Like we were just playing what we were more comfortable with, and we played Lijiang a lot more in scrims. Like we haven't played. I don't think we played Nepal this week at all in scrims, so it's something we're a little bit more comfortable with.
Gotcha. I think just that kind of practice showing out there.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with you about Darko. I was mentioning it. There was just so many good whip flails as well as shield stuns. I thought that was just really great play from that other support. So give them a pat on the back for us. I want to talk about compositions because we know you guys really for playing that Wrecking Ball Sigma a ton. And it seems like on Nepal, you swapped off of that and ended up moving more to double shield as well as Ryan Sigma or Rista Sigma stuff, which is not really in your guys' wheelhouse or something that we haven't seen as much. So was that because of what happened on Nepal, or was it just something that you were practicing more as the meta has shifted towards double shield?
We kind of shifted towards that meta as we were playing, as we were seeing more teams play that in scrim. So we just planned on playing double shield on any other map other than Koth, because Koth is really, it's kind of a toss up if you play double shield. So that's what we did.
Awesome. Well, in the end, you were able to bring it back and take that 3-2 victory, but it did take 5 maps. I know that you guys did lose your first map in week 7. Now you lost 2 more maps this week. You're still at the top of the mountain here in the EGF. You're still at 8-0. So you got to ask, you haven't played Maris, you haven't played RIT, the other 2 teams that are looking to end this split undefeated after giving up a few maps here and there. Are you still able to compete with those top dogs?
I think we really are able to compete. It's just that we're making too many little mistakes, I think. But those could be easily fixed during scrims, and yeah, I don't think there's gonna be any problem if we do go against them. It might be a little close, but we'll be fine.
Well, we love close games, and you did come away at the end of a very close series with the win. So congratulations on an 8-0 split. I mean, it's very impressive. So congrats to the whole team, UTA, a force to be reckoned with. And that's all I got, FBI Tugboat. So unless you got anything else, I think we can wrap this up.
Nope.
No, sir. That'll be it there. Super Juice, I want to thank you for giving us a minute of your time after the match. Come on in and talking some Overwatch.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'm FBI Tugboat. Like my man Jag here said, I do believe that is with us reached the least point, my least favorite part of any broadcast, and that's of course the end. Yes, this will be the last match here on the stream today. FBI Tugboat here, Jag over there. I almost messed it up there again. Juke, yes, my man down there, producer's box, producing away, making our jobs as casters just so much easier. This has been the EGFC, the Electronic Gaming Federation collegiate side. I always do that. And this has been the last week in the fall split. Well, you can join us next week, same day on Thursday, but times I do believe will be a little bit earlier, like 5:30 for the first bit of our playoffs in the Vincentian playoffs here for the EGF. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time.